Hiya Benchmates, this is Beyond the Box Art, where benchtop banter meets industry insight and the hobby comes alive through the voices behind the builds. Your benchmates at the mic for this episode are Paul Pendleton-Brown, with his co-hosts Mike Baldwin, Dan Brazil, Shane Cowie, Martin Drayton, Luke Flynn, Mark Housley, James Nevitt, and Paul Wong. And we are joined this episode by Luke Carswell, founder of the IPMS UK Black Rifle Model Works community group. Plus, we are also joined by Dale Lockhurst, Head of Brand, Matthew Whitting, Development Manager, and Clint Mitchell, Researcher for Airfix.
Hi Benchmates, welcome to episode 22, where we're joined by Luke Carswell from the Black Rifles IPMS UK community group to explore modelling, community and connection through the hobby. We're also sitting down with Dale, Matt and Clint, the team from Airfix, for an in-depth discussion about heritage, research, design decisions and what goes into shaping the kits we all know and love. Add in the usual benchtop banter, plenty of insight and maybe a few surprises along the way. We've got another episode ready for you to take you beyond the box art, and it starts now. So for this episode, I'm joined by Nevs.
Hi everyone.
Dan.
Hello Benchmates.
Boulders.
Hello.
Luke.
Hello.
Martin.
Hi everyone.
Mark.
Hello everybody.
And Wongy.
Hello.
And now, Benchmates Mail. Your questions, comments, and stories from the bench straight into the conversation.
Starting off with John Gearing from Stoke-on-Trent. He writes, "Hello Brownie, it was good to meet you and Mark at the Bolton show on Sunday. You might like to suggest to the show organisers that they change their tagline from Bolton, the largest one-day show, to Bolton, the coldest one-day show. But then again, you're probably going to call me a soft southerner. To be honest, it was Baltic. Anyway, if you recall, I was asking about converting the Tamiya 132nd F-16C into an F-16A so I can build my Belgian and Danish F-16 display aircraft using the SciArt system. You reeled off a whole list of upgrades necessary, and who produces the upgrades and volunteered to let me have a list of them, which I did, and I haven't actually sent the list yet, but I will do. Anyway, he says, I'm halfway through episode 20 now, thoroughly enjoying it, and just got to the end of the Revell new releases. It's meant an increase to my stash requirement for list for 2026. I managed to avoid the silly prices being charged for the C17, but I feel it necessary to add another one to the stash, just in case. I'm also pleased that Italeri are re-releasing the KC-135 because it's also fetching silly prices again. As for the Tamiya Ukraine tank that you were talking about, I'm surprised that a company of Tamiya's standing would do such a thing. Anyway, looking forward to future podcasts. We have our own show on the 30th of August, I knew there was a plug coming, at Stoke-on-Trent. Not sure if you guys go to many shows or not. IPMS usually have a stand here. Looking forward to hearing from you, and that's from John Gearing in Stoke-on-Trent Model Club. So, any chance of the heating being switched on in 2027?
The heating was on. Can I suggest run round? Yeah. Or a jumper on?
You're probably right. It's the fact that you're a Southern Jesse.
No, you can't say that. He's only in Stoke. It's not that far south, is it? Still south.
Right. But obviously far enough. I thought it was actually all right on the day. It wasn't that bad, was it?
It was freezing. Upstairs?
At least it was dry.
Well, yeah, inside.
At least it wasn't peeing it down.
It wasn't cold. I don't know how it could be cold upstairs considering the heat rises. I think if he wore a vest, yeah, and went to the refreshment kiosk, buy 2 of those bacon baps, yeah. All right, Dan, baps. Dan's smiling. Then he could use those like hand warmers in his fleece, can't he?
I thought it was t-shirt weather.
There were certain areas within the venue that were cold, obviously near where the roller shutters was at the south end, which we weren't aware of, but people kept going out of the doors at the bottom. That will be remedied for next year's show, because that is something that we've already discussed. But yeah, it wasn't as cold as it has been in previous years, and I can vouch for that. That's why we made changes to make sure that it was warmer. But there was I didn't find it cold at all. But in my defence, I was running around like a blue bottle fly, making sure everything was running smoothly. But yeah, and the rest, I think it was like 30-something thousand I did. It was ridiculous.
That's a lot of steps to and from the butty wagon.
Excuse me, somebody actually bought me a bacon butter because they owed me one because they'd done something and I had to rectify. So they said, right, I owe you a bacon butter. So I had that at 8:20, and then I finally sat down to have something to eat at 2:30.
So the answer, John, is put a vest on and go walk a little bit faster next year. Anyway, moving on.
Well, we'll sort it.
Brian O'Donoghue from Hereford has written in. He says, "Hi guys, just finished listening to the latest episode on my morning run, something that none of us are going to do with the exception of probably Luke and Martin, but hey-ho. Listening to you, and I was very pleased with the Airfix 2026 release announcements. Many of the releases will be very welcome and the new toolkits more so. I'm not surprised with the stalwart limber, as the kit already had the load bed with a separate part that hinted at a future release. We may also see the Remy version in the future. It is essentially the same as the limber, but the crane had a creep function to aid fine control. The Saracen should have been expected as it shares a common-ish layout with the stalwart. You can hope for a Saladin. The Saracen was in use at RAF Bruggen until 1992 with the resident Royal Engineer Squadron, although we had the later Mark VI with reverse flow cooling. I hope that means something to somebody, because that's gone straight over my head.
Yeah, I know what he means.
Anyway, modellers are being spoilt this year for Cold War modern armour and soft skins. This is the new Tool Challenger 1 and CRRAV from Trumpeter, a re-release of the Warrior without the armoured upgrade from AIP. Gecko is slowly releasing CVRT Spartans, currently in Ukrainian versions, but when it arrives it's likely to be a later life extension program diesel engine version. I'm sure that the aftermarket firms will be very busy with accessories and conversion sets. If you have Airfix back on the show, what we do, this episode, could you ask them a few questions? Well, you'll have to listen and find out if we did. But, is it true that BAE wanted a fee for the potential kit of the Queen Elizabeth? You'll find out. We did talk about the Queen Elizabeth. Would they consider producing a 135th Land Rover Defender, another vehicle that could lend itself to several versions? Having crewed, serviced and driven countless miles on them is one kit that is missing from every manufacturer's list. Good luck with your show, keep up the great work on the pod, and I look forward to listening to future episodes. Best wishes from Hereford." But he also carries on with a second email, which continues with the discussion we had back in episode 20, reference decals. Brian wrote in again, listening to the latest podcast, printing white decals. It is complicated and can be done using a special laser printer. It usually involves swapping out the black toner and running the decal film through twice. Although they are available, they are very expensive and probably out of the reach of most modelers. Inkjet printers are limited as most domestic printers use water-based ink. High-end printers use solvent-based inks and are more resistant, but this comes with a high cost. Most, if not all modelers would use home inkjet printer and either use one of the decal firm decal papers. They come either in white, careful cutting, or clear. Inkjet prints will require varnishing to prevent the ink being washed off. Home laser printers are now affordable and remove the varnishing step. Decal printers generally use silkscreen process, so the short answer, yes, you can print at home. The longer answer, we look at printers that are designed for garment or merchandising, as these printers are more likely to offer white ink/toners. Of course, there are firms out there that offer short-run decal printing, but the modeler will need to supply the artwork ready for the printer. Keep up the great work, Brian. Okay, so we've been contacted by Barry Goss from Orlando, and he continues the theme of homemade decals. In response to your discussion about making decals in episode 20, I've been making my own decals for personal use for a while now. I mainly use decals to restore or replace old kit decals, copy or rescale subjects that are not available in aftermarket, or for dressing up a display base. I use Expert's Choice decal sheets from Bare Metal Foil. Has anyone heard of those?
Yeah, I've used them. They're really good.
A packet of 3 runs me $7.99 at my local hobby shop. They come in 8.5 by 11-inch sheets. Obviously, they don't have A4 in the States, in both clear and white for both inkjet and laser printers. Note, the decal sheets are printer specific and not interchangeable, which is a really useful tip. I set my printer settings for best quality on glossy photo paper. And yes, with inkjets, you'll have to be very conscious of the ink being moist on the paper when first printed. The way I deal with that is to set the print in a drawer and allow the ink to dry for at least 30 minutes after printing. And overnight is even better. Then I apply a mist coat of Tamiya's TS79 semi-gloss and set the print back in the drawer for another 30 minutes. Or you can lightly hit it with a blow dryer on low. This will allow you to safely handle the print while sealing it with an additional 2 to 3 light coats of the semi-clear. Light coats are key, he says. The semi-gloss coats act as the decal's carrier film. Of course, this means that you'll have to trim each image from the sheet individually. So how do I address this fact with both the clear and white decal sheets? Depending on the colour makeup of the decal image, I will print out my images on both a white sheet and a clear decal sheet. Using a white decal sheet works great when it comes to trimming images with sharp or angular lines, whereas rounded images, not so much, but it can be done. So how do we negotiate rounded edge images, you may ask? Well, you can mask and paint a white background onto the model and then apply the colour. Images from the clear sheet then go over that. Or instead of masking and painting, you can also cut out the shape of the image from a scrap piece of white decal sheet. Apply that to your model and then apply the clear image over that. Great for roundels that you can easily cut around with a circle cutter. Another workaround is to add a thin border of the white image using the colour that will be used to paint the model. This colour match can be accompanied via your computer's imaging program. Simply make a paint chip of the colour to be used, scan that into your computer, then fill the colour into the border you created around the white image. When trimmed, this coloured outline will help the white-backed image blend into the model's colour. So to sum up, making your own decals is not a money-making proposition. It can be time-consuming and costly when it comes to printer ink. So think of making your own decals more as a labour of love and your friends.
To be honest, it sounds like it's a great thing, but it sounds long-winded as well, really.
I think the process is long. Now, like we mentioned in episode 20, Microsol do a decal film which dries in a fraction of the time than using a varnish. Now, if you go over and do 4 or 5 coats, that is going to be dry quicker than by the time you've used a semi-gloss or varnish. The Expert Choice decal paper is available in the UK. It's with Luke's favourite shop.
What is my favourite shop?
They do 3 times white decal film, approximately 11 inches by 8.5 inches. Obviously, the problem is for the Americans is that they can't get the decal film over there. It's only available in the UK. So Microsol, Microset, the decal film, the crystal clear that they do, and the metal foil adhesive is only available in the UK. That's possibly why he's had to come up with a different process to get the same achievements. Obviously, it's a lot longer and winded. Microscales, liquid decal film is a hell of a lot easier.
But can I just ask, right, because this is all new to me, I've never printed decals and have no intention of doing it. If you print your own decals at home on this so-called film that you get, will they behave and go down with normal decal solutions?
Yes. So basically, it's just exactly like any model manufacturer that produces decals like Cartograph. It's the film which either comes in white or clear. So if you were going to do registration plates in foreign countries, like France, for instance, because France are always on a white background with black writing, Again, you call just print the registration plate in the black lettering, and then you could mask and cut, obviously, after you use the decal film, and that will behave exactly like a decal.
Right. Okay. And would it be worth testing a section to see if some of your decal solutions are, because I've got like the Tamiya Mark Fit Super Strong, I've got Micro Set and Soul. Would it be worth just testing? I mean, if you get Partograph decals, you know what's going to work on them. If you got Tamiya decals, you know they're a little bit thicker. Homebrew decal.
Would you use the Tamiya stuff? Microsolid set, it will go down, it'll bed, no problem at all.
Right. Okay.
Because the same company that produces the decal film in liquid form also produces microsolid sets.
Got it. Okay. I understand.
Obviously, they've developed this for people to be able to do those weird and wonderful aircraft schemes, or they need specific regiments from the British Army in the Second World War because nobody does them, able to print it all. And most of them have got red with a white lettering. They're able to put it down and get the same results. But the key thing is to get as many coats of the liquid decal film on. It's also good as well if you've got a decal set that is starting to slightly crack. You can see it. It's not fully split, but slightly cracked. You spray it over, it rebeds them and seals them so that they don't split when you put them on a model. So it's really good stuff.
And you spray that through an airbrush?
Yep.
Got it.
Straight through, no problem at all.
Well, every day's a school day.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to thin it. Is it not quite thick? Is it not gloopy?
No, it's not. And it's really thin. About the same consistency as microsolid sets. So I did this when I worked in a model shop. We had a customer that wanted a particular set of decals from a 1986 film that had a young Maverick pilot. And I printed them, did exactly what I needed to do with the decal film, and he had no issues, and he actually completed the model.
Didn't you do some for a Greek aircraft as well? A Phantom at some point?
No, I did a German F4F with a special commemorative scheme. I didn't do Greek ones. I did German because I did them for myself because it had a specific tail that I wanted to do because it was lime green spine, the lime green fin, and there was a special decal scheme that went on the fin, and it went down great. As long as you've sealed it and you've absolutely made sure you've sealed it, they go down, no problem at all, and they bed very well.
Yeah, because your worry is the paint, is the dye running from the ink, isn't it? Especially for normal people that can only afford a normal inkjet or whatever they are.
Yeah, it works well with inkjets. It really does work well with inkjets. I've never tried it on a toner printer. The definitive printer is to have the white printer that you can do your decals. But I had a look, and even still now, you're looking at £8,000-9,000 in the UK for a printer that does white ink.
Okay. Right. Well, I think we've just about hit the subject, but thanks for everyone who's actually written in. If you want to write to the show, email us at info@beyondtheboxart.com, and we will actually have a discussion about it in the future. But any other comments or stuff like that, we will put into our show notes or onto our Facebook Benchmates page. Right. We'll take a short break, and then we'll come back with what we've got on our benches.
48 in 48, a global modelling marathon where builders unite, create, auction and support models for heroes, proving small-scale builds can make a huge difference. Head over to 48-48.org for event details, live updates, auctions and ways you can join builders worldwide supporting models for heroes through creativity and community. Visit ScaleModelPodcast.com, your hub for the best scale modelling pods, because finding great content shouldn't take longer than hunting for lost photo etch.
Let's start off with what we've got on our benches this episode. So, Ned, what have you got on your bench?
So after finishing off Indianapolis in time for Bolton and in the midnight with that, I've sunk my teeth into the SMS Nassau, which I teased a couple of episodes ago. So German battleship, 700th scale, so I'm well on with that. I did put a not so reviewing photo on the Benchmates group a few weeks ago. So the ship's got its bilge keels now. I'm just building up the turrets. Obviously I won't make this a SMS Nassau history episode, but the photos of it, don't put it in a very flattering light. It's the very Edwardian photographs where it's not dynamic at all, and I don't think that does justice to it personally. So when I'm building it, I'm going to put it in more of a dynamic pose with the forward turrets training their guns in elevation. The rear turrets will be more or less uniform, but the forward turrets, I'm going to train the guns a bit more to give it life, because unlike the Indianapolis, which had such a tragic story and a very colourful story, there's just not much there for Nassau, and it's a shame. So I want to give it a bit of life.
Whose kit is that, Neb?
This is a 3D printed kit. It's my first ever one. Obviously, I'm basically using super glue for it. And I've spent so long just preparing the kit that clean up the casting block was an absolute nightmare. I ended up erasing half the lower hull in the process. That's why I had to redo the bilge keels, because I'd sanded them off. But I've redone them in styrene. And the effect I was going for, you can't see it in the photo I put on Benchmates, but essentially you just cut up tiny little strips of paper. You're looking at 2 mils across by just under 1 mil wide, and I put them along as if they're the plates on the lower hull, because these things were rough and ready. This is before welding. It's riveted plates that are slammed onto these things. So the kit itself looks gorgeous, and the details that are going to go on it in the superstructure, the guns, are so crisp. But we were talking a few episodes ago about physical instructions versus digital. This thing only had digital, and it was a nightmare. I've had to print them, so you've gone back to having physical straight away. So that for me has settled the argument.
What was the problem with that then, Nev? Was that because you kept flicking backwards and forwards through the digital images and stuff, and it would have just been easier on paper anyway?
Precisely. So a lot of, literally, the instructions, it's not so much, put part F23 to F22 and put it in this hole. It's a case of you need to just spend all your time removing all these tiny supports, because then once you've done that, everything will go together. So you can't do that looking at a laptop screen. You need it in print, because I got myself a new set of snippers for that reason, because these things will be tiny, and I couldn't have done that with a laptop screen. I needed something physical.
You need a sonic knife is what you need.
The knife will be way bigger than the ship.
Oh no, the blades are tiny, mate. The blades are tiny.
All right.
Okay, so what have you been buying?
Not much. Been buying the paints to do it. No one does the cracking Imperial German Navy paint set, but the Second World War German Navy essentially used the same paint codes as the previous German Navy. So I've experimented a bit. I've got the Vallejo kit. I've got the ammo version. I think I will end up going with the ammo version, but I was saying to you guys, I'd bought their Japanese Navy sets as well. Really disappointed with them, because they just use RAL colours as stand-ins for Japanese Navy ones.
I don't think they're on their own, Nevs. I think a lot do that, where they just, whatever's the closest will do.
But at least the others are more honest about it. Whereas this was like, okay, we've accurately researched these, and yeah, it might be the closest match, but it's the closest match from their range. It's not like the Life Colour ones, which are the Italian brand. They've gone out of the way to put a bit of thought into the paints. So I prefer those. I didn't manage to get the German set from them, but like I said, for the German Navy, they seem to be okay.
And is it a specific World War I German Navy?
Yeah. The Nassau was the first ever German dreadnought.
No, I mean the paints, the life colour. I didn't know they did it.
Yeah, so they do a Kriegsmarine set. They do two. They do one for the U-boats and one for the main ships.
I've got the U-boaty one, but it's World War II, a separate set again?
No. So like I say, they used the same, more or less the same paint codes between the two world wars. So you're essentially just looking for the sort of neutral grey colour and then a light grey colour. Those are the two colours that the Imperial German Navy was using.
Okay, so if that's it for you, we will move on to Dan. What's on your bench?
Well,
Just
I
hold
finished.
to those 2 seconds. I just want to go back with something for Nevs. During your piece, Nevs, you were talking about the Benchmates. Now, we've obviously talked a little bit about it in the past, but we have a Facebook page. So you can obviously find us with the Beyond the Box art with the blue verified mark. And also, if you look on there, you'll see there's a community page, which is the Beyond the Box art Benchmates, where people can go discuss modelling, look at what we've got on our benches, etc., and also discuss different tools, techniques, and look at some of the fantastic pieces of work that some of the modellers that have contributed from around the world. We've got over 400 members in that page already, and a lot of people don't know it exists. So it's free to enter, as per usual. So go along, have a look at the Facebook page, click on the link, and you'll get in very quick. Anyway, with that, we'll move on to Dan.
Well, what recently flew off the bench was the Hasegawa F8 Crusader that I finished. That was our club secret Santa. I was quite glad to get it done in the end. I was losing interest in it, so got that one done and wrapped up, and back in my comfort zone with my B24D Liberator, the desert one. Yeah, it's going really well. I riveted this all over and tried to follow the patterns of reference photos that I took of the Liberator that is at Hendon Museum. And to do it, to keep the rivet lines straight and uniform, I think I bought it a while ago, previously mentioned, the Display scribing tape.
Oh, yes.
And I would really recommend it if anybody wants to have a go at riveting. Obviously, you need the riveter tool. I've got the trumpeter one. And the riveting tape, I find it's really good, and because it's very sticky and conforms and can go all the way around the fuselage and across the top of the wings. Yes, Mike?
Now, how much was that, the Despair?
Well, I looked on eBay and it was listed as, I can't remember the exact price, but listed under Display, it was more expensive. And then other sellers were selling it without showing that it was Display, just showing a picture of the tape itself. So I thought, well, I'll order that one. It was about £6. And it's like, how many meters is it? 3 millimeters, and there's 30 meters of it. And what turned up was the Display tape.
The only reason I was asking is because when I've riveted, I've always used, again, outside the box, is dynamo tape from the dynamo machine.
That's what I was going to say.
I think we all use that, Mike.
Because it's strong and sturdy.
I chop it in half. I get a metal ruler, and chop it in half so I get 2 uses out of the same strip.
Yeah, the good thing is it's got dashed lines on it for spacing as well. And I'll be honest with you, on a 1/72 bomber, and I only cut 2 strips because you can take it off and put it back on. The adhesive is so good. So 30 meters of it, I don't think I'll be buying that again for a long time. So yeah, but no, lovely build. I've already built this Airfix one as the B24J or H, Corky, I can't remember now. So yeah, when you're building it a second time, it flies together. Love it. Absolutely lovely kit. Really enjoying it. Back doing that. Yeah, and that's it for the moment. Oh, I also have the little Italeri 148 Auto Belinda AB42, I think it is, or AB43. But that's me.
Okay. Right then. Boulders.
I'm still working on the Megami, the Tamiya 1350th aircraft cruiser. It's a beautiful kit, very well engineered. A lot of screwing brackets into place for it to go together. Absolute joy to build. And yeah, I'm cracking on with that. Superstructures built into sub-assemblies, ready for painting and detailing.
Okay. And what have you been spending your cash on?
Right. So I've bought 3 kits. One's a behemoth. It is the I Love Kit 1:200 scale USS Hornet. Absolute stunner of a kit. It's 1,279 millimeters long. So she's a pretty big lady. Got the full aftermarket for it. So I've got the Mark 1 design set, which comes with everything. And I've also got with it 3D printed B25 Mitchells, which unfortunately are the wrong ones. They're J's and not B's. So there may need to be a little bit of tweaking and fettling and moving a few things about to...
So you got to move the turret and you got to get rid of the chin guns?
Yeah, the fuselage guns on either side, just behind the cockpit, I have to get rid of. It shouldn't be a bigger, but I'm going to see if there's any available as the B variant, just to save, because obviously the 200 scale, they're not massive. The detail, I'm more worried about parts breaking and certain things going amiss with them. So that's that one. Something totally left field. I bought a car kit. I bought the one that I've been after for the best part of 15, 20 years, is the re-release of the Zack Speed Ford Pre-Turbo. Absolute pearl of a kit. It was originally a battery operated car kit, but Tamiya have retooled the chassis, so now there's no motor to be put in it at all. They've remodeled it. Rather stunning kit, and the detail, considering how old it is still flawless. It's absolute a little gem of a kit, and it's not expensive neither. And bought another ship, which none of you know about. I went to who's just found then?
I did. Etsy have 1/200th B25B Mitchell Doolittle.
I'm not paying £39 for one I need.
Yeah, that looks like it's just for one. It's not plural, that. Yeah, it needs 16.
Maybe you could buy one and it's the last one to take off.
No. Yeah, that's not happening. Plus, the rivet detail on that is absolutely atrocious.
He's never satisfied, is he?
The new ship kit is German and is the Battleship Tirpitz by Trumpeter 50 scale Tirpitz. Absolute bargain, by the way, because the kit is really expensive. That kit retails for £209.99, and I got it for 110.
You could have had the Revel one for 50 off me at Bolton.
That comes with full photo etch, and apparently it's very accurate with what they've done. So how they got it accurate, I don't know, because obviously there's not one in existence. Part of it's still in the bottom of the fjord that they left, but the kit is absolutely stunning. It will be more than likely done as a seascape, but obviously Tirpitz never went anywhere. So I'm going to do it sat in the fjord with little nets popping around. So I'll just need some little buoys going round with some cabling going through, and I'll probably put it at the side of a cliff face where she was. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
Mike, the Tirpitz was sunk by Lancasters, not string bags, was it?
Yeah, was it the Grand Slam or the big massive bomb?
Tall boy.
So the midget submarines did damage to her, and obviously given her scene to, and then the V1 specials dropped the small boys.
What is that? Operation Cataclysm? No, was it Cataclysm? No, I can't remember the name of it. I get the operations mixed.
I mean, the Trumpy ones can't be that bad, surely.
Yeah, they're about 3 inches long.
You know, the difference is either spend a lot of money on a load of replacements just for the sake of...
And that's why you're getting a set, to see if you can remove the cheat turrets, to see if you can remove the to the back.
Is that are they the ones that I didn't have any guns on them in the first place? They just had wooden sticks sticking out to lighten the load.
Some. The front one had a broom handle because they didn't need it. The upper turrets had the guns in it. The rear turrets had the guns. The weight gunners had broomsticks in to make them look like they were armed, and that was it. Basically, they had to take off earlier than expected due to the fact that a Japanese fishing boat had spotted them, and they didn't want them to relay back to certainly been sighted, so they took them off quickly. Yeah, so that's got a full hang, and I'm going to do quite a few of the shutters up so that when you look in, you'll be able to see F4s, Wildcats up in the rafters stored away. Same with Dauntlesses, because it comes with the wingfold kit in the aftermarket, so I can make them all wingfold. And I'll possibly have a few that will be worked on. I reckon good 18 months, that might be ready for Telford next year.
It'd be good to try and, I don't know if you can do the shutters around the elevators, but I know that as soon as those 16 B25s were off, the Wildcats were brought straight up, because like you say, they were expecting that there's going to be some trouble. There's going to be some interception.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, I could possibly have one folded, because obviously you get the elevator shafts, obviously with the entrances, so I can have them all done. But I've bought some 200 scale World War II United States Navy aircraft carrier figures. So obviously you're going to be able to see. I'm even contemplating on putting lights in the hangar so that you can see the detail.
Yeah, I think you'd have to, because otherwise it'll be missed.
Because it's just Mr. Wong's raising his eyebrow because this is being done seascape. So this is going to be an absolute whopper.
Boulders, just do it.
I'm doing it. Had to be done. So yeah, I've got everything for it. And I'm actually looking forward. So I've done the Megami, and I have done the Belfast. I think I'll make a start on that because it's going to take me months to get the hull right on it and get the right camouflage. The colours are the ones that are a bit hard to get hold of because she was in a unusual camouflage scheme. So she was like dark blue at the bottom, like in a wave pattern, and then went to like a bluish grey. And then the superstructure was in a striped camouflage, again in different colours. So it's just...
Can I just ask, are there any colour images of this around? Or, is it people just assuming these were the...
No, she's documented. I've literally just got a book that I bought off an auction site from a second-hand bookstore. It cost me £7. The postage on the Hornet, and it's in the camouflage. So she was camouflaged.
With that, Luke, what have you got on your bench other than a superb diorama?
Ah,
Now there's something we never thought we'd actually say.
yeah, as of recording, yes, the diorama is been almost airlifted off of my bench. For a first diorama, I had the bright idea to think, it, 0.5 meter by 0.5 meter. Kind of bit me in the arse. That was a long time of sorting things out, but it was really good, to be honest, to put together. It's a new twist to it. It was a lot of fun, especially as I quite like doing some CAD work in my spare time. So combining two worlds and seeing them mesh really badly at first was, laughable. At the moment, there isn't a huge amount on the bench. It's that kind of 1 or 2 day clear up, which is always, I think, a necessity. But I've been having a little peruse through the stash in the evenings, and I've got a couple of things which are taking my fancy. One would be the Airfix English Electric Lightning. That looks pretty tasty and could be quite a fun little build. Also, on a slightly different note, is the Hobby Boss 1/48 scale Avenger. I love the Avenger. I think it is a weird, wacky looking thing, so I like that. Or I'm thinking of doing an F-35C.
Well, there's not much difference between those three, is there?
No.
Can we call it a tarpon or something like that?
A tampon? Tarpon, sorry. I don't know. I think I'm going to decide that hopefully towards the end of this week. There will not be a diorama. I say that now, but we'll see for whatever project that might be. So yeah, that's currently what is on the bench.
Why don't you do it as a seascape, drop it at a torpedo?
Yeah. I drop all of my stuff. You know what? Shut the up. Oh my god. Right. I do a full workshop diorama, lighting, welders, everything, and what do I have to do?
I was very impressed, Luke. I think you've clearly been influenced somewhere along the line to do diorama. Was that something that you planned to do for quite a while, or something you had an idea to do recently, do a diorama?
No. We'll quickly go through the timeline of this build. It was over Christmas. This is like the Does Work P118. It's got like 5 sprues in it. It's not crazy at all. I was thinking,
Oh, really? Oh, okay. I thought it was loads.
yeah, no, it's not crazy. So there's 1 sprue for the engine, 1 for like kind of your wings and fuselage, cockpits, and then kind of 1 other one. There's like 2 or 3 sprues for the missiles, but I didn't like the missiles, to be honest. I was like, yeah. So I was thinking, this is going to be a nice quick 2-week build. That'll be a nice quick turnaround for the channel after the Tomcat. Hurrah! Let's do that. About a week in, I'd done the engine and it was absolutely wonderful looking. It was just, it looked how I wanted the engine to look. And I was thinking, I'm going to have this lovely engine and I'm going to cover it up because I usually like to do all my models covered up. And I was thinking, no, I'm going to leave one of the panels off on one side of it. That was the first mistake. Then we went onto the cockpit and the cockpit was very nice, but it didn't have seatbelts. So then I got some HGW seatbelts and I was going to have one of them hanging out the side of the flipping thing. That's the second mistake. And then the third mistake is thinking it's going to look a bit weird by itself. It's already a goofy looking airplane. It needs at least a base. And I've done a couple of bases before, but I've never done a diorama. So I was having a look online, and also I was looking at the box art, and it was in this wonderful looking workshop with beams and lights and things all around it. And I was thinking, ooh, I wonder if I could make a little bit of a backdrop for it. So we hopped onto CAD, to be completely honest, in a slightly drunken state, not having a proper idea for dimensions and what the real world implications of this are going to be. And, you know, CAD'd it all up with this modular system, which if you've watched the video, which hopefully will be out, you'll understand what that is. All slotted together, they got printed, and it just kind of rolled along from there. And then it was on to lighting, and it was trying to figure out how to do that. And as someone who's in education doing quite an electrical based degree, for some reason it took me 6 hours to wire 4 LEDs in parallel. It was the most embarrassing thing in my life. Yeah, it was just one of those projects that just kept on going, but end result was cool, and I'm pretty happy with it.
And the welder as well, the finishing touch.
Yeah, I blew up 3 of those LEDs. They're unstable.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
But it was worth it.
Oh, it was worth it. Yeah.
As a diorama builder, I was super impressed what you did. Really nice work.
Oh, thank you very much.
But what you've just described is exactly how I got into dioramas.
Yeah.
Start with a tank, doesn't look right. Let's put something in the background, and then it went from there. So be careful, man.
I have a really bad feeling that this is going to end up being almost a kind of not necessity. I can't do it, considering like the channel will not die, but it will just turn into something else if I do it for every single model. And I don't really want to do it for every single model.
The thing is with that model, Luke, is I'm not too up on German aircraft anyway. I didn't even know about that aircraft until I saw that box art, and I associate, when someone now says that aircraft, I now associate it with that box art and that hangar. So you've chosen the perfect setting to put it in, because that's what most people will associate it with anyway.
Yeah.
And it frames it perfectly. It really does.
It really did. It's already a goofy looking airplane. I love it personally. I know everyone's a little bit like ooh and ah, but I personally think it is a brilliant looking airplane. But it does need something going on around it, which is what led me to doing all that and doing some figure painting, which is always
That's the start now, Luke. You'll just do one after another, all being well.
No. Look, I'll be completely honest. There is a big plan for something to come to Telford, an even bigger diorama. We are going to keep that one under wraps for now.
Fair enough.
Just in case I never actually do it and then people can't make fun of me. But yeah, it was really enjoyable, and I quite liked the system that I did it with, the 3D printed modular system. It made it quite approachable, to be completely honest.
How heavy is it?
Quite heavy. But that's more the wood side of things, because I set them at 2% infill. The actual modular blocks weigh about 20 grams each, really. They're not much at all. So yeah, no, very enjoyable.
And it actually looks superb. You have done a superb job on it, mate.
Oh, thank you very much.
Luke, can I ask, which CAD program did you play with?
I am personally quite competent at Fusion 360.
Oh, right, okay.
You know, when you're building, Martin, do you sort of do a design and build, is it sort of design it as you're going along, or do you have like a rough idea of what you want to do and where you want to be when it finishes?
I like to plan out things right from the start. So I'll do a sketch because I've got an idea in my head of what I want. So I'll start to sketch it. And then from there, it's pretty much fixed. And there's only things that changes are just small things that I think they're going to enhance it. But I pretty much just stick to a plan.
Yeah, I'm terrible with dioramas because as I'm going along, it kind of changes and then it tends to morph into something completely different at the end for me.
Yeah, but that's the creative process, isn't it?
And that's fine. I mean, people do either.
I think that's something which I personally really struggled with dioramas, I don't like things going kind of woo and away, which I think is how quite a few people do dioramas. At least they go with the flow, dude. No, I wanted just everything to be CAD'd out so I knew how everything was going to look.
Yeah, but that's composition, Luke. That's planning and composition. There's nothing wrong with that. And to be fair, what you've done is a very modular thing anyway with this hangar, so it allows you to...
How long did that take, Luke?
It took me about 20 minutes.
No way.
Yeah, but this is literally, it's not on my job, but it's like I spend a lot of my life on CAD. And it looks really impressive, but it's just this.
Yeah, I suppose you've just got to design one of them, and then once you've done one, just replicate it.
Well, kind of. You have to do one and then you have to mirror it, because you'll see that these are all mirrored so they can interlock correctly. And make it, because otherwise it'll all just be going like, you know, that's technical phrasing I've just done there.
And what's it on? A piece of plyboard or something?
It is on a bit of ply. Yes, it was put on some ply.
It looks brilliant. It looks absolutely brilliant. So have you been spending any cash?
I have ICM Little Bird in the basket.
Nice.
So I have noticed that there are a couple of special offers on Hanance. That isn't me trying to do a plug or anything like that.
Of course it isn't.
Didn't sound like it.
I'll be completely honest. It might be a small one, but we'll skip over it. Yeah, they're doing like P40N on special offer, the Raw class. Yeah. So I was like, I personally did the E last year. Really enjoyed that kit. That was absolutely superb. I don't know if anyone else has actually done the P40 from Edward.
I've got one, but how much was the Royals anyway, the Royal set for that?
The Royal was 90 quid, and I think Hannon's doing it for 50 at the moment.
60, 59.99.
60, sorry.
Wow. Was that 2 kits or 3?
2 with full resin and stuff, though.
Friend from Model Club here, we both liked it, but we didn't want 2, so we went halves on it.
Makes sense. Okay, anything else?
Yeah, watch Mac Models. It's great and it's so fun. And yeah, more plugs. I don't get much airtime on this podcast because I never get invited anymore.
You're invited every episode.
And there's lovely hands on there.
Oh, grief.
I'm never invited. They don't want me on. So please watch Mac Models. Thank you.
I like you, Luke. I'll be watching Mac Models.
Oh, thank you. See, there's one true fan here. The rest of you are just here for the hats.
And if you actually look in the show notes, you'll see that every single episode has a link to your YouTube channel in it.
Put it at the top.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
I'm joking. I'll shut up now.
Drama queen. Oh, good grief. Okay then, moving on. Martin, what have you got on the bench other than another superb diorama?
So, well, I've almost finished the Maschinen Krieger one that I'm doing. It's like 99% finished. My friend just 3D printed some little woodland creatures for me, little rodents and stuff. So I'm just going to dot a few of those around and then it's done. But in the background, I have this giant D-Day diorama that I'm doing. It's a church with the 101st Airborne soldiers walking by. There's going to be a Jeep.
This is the lightweight plaster church, is it?
Yes, the one that weighs a ton. But there's going to be a Jeep in the background with some German prisoners sitting on it who've just given up. But one thing that's very different that I haven't done is an interior kit. And I've got a Panzer IV that is sitting in the wreckage of the church. And I've just started building that and collecting. You wouldn't believe how many photos there are out there of Panzer IVs in various states of disassembly. I mean, completely blown apart to just little bits off them. And I'm kind of trying to look at those and see what's feasible so that I can use all the detail from the kits, still make it recognizable. But yeah, it's new territory. It's building the interior kit, but at the same time, wrecking it while I'm building it, cutting pieces off, bending pieces, heating pieces, making holes and stuff.
Which kit is it?
It's RFM.
So does that come with an interior?
Yeah, they do various versions and this one is the full interior kit. It's also got some alternate parts that are transparent that obviously I'm not going to use. So that's if you wanted to build it complete and have people still see inside.
Okay, sounds interesting. Looking forward to seeing pictures of that.
Yeah, because you knocked that other one out of the park really quick.
Again, we talked about dioramas, talked about planning. I had planned it to the point where I knew exactly where everything was going to go. And it means that even if I've got like 10 minutes spare, I can do something that's going to contribute towards moving it forward. I kind of make a list usually, and I tick off that list as I go and always look at what I can take away with me on my layover trips to get done during that time.
And what have you been spending your cash on?
To be honest, I haven't spent much money because this is winter over here and my other job, it's snow time. So I've just bought a new pair of boots snowboard boots that were $300. So that's put a dent in my modeling funds. So I've got to just sit tight with what I have. I've got plenty of work to be going on with that big diorama and different aspects of it. So I don't need to get anything right now. So I'm being good.
Okay, fair enough. Right then, Mark, what have you got on your bench?
So same as last time, the little boats I was doing, stripped them again, painted them again. They're getting there slowly but surely. And that's pretty much it really, so not much.
Okay, and what have you been spending all your cash on over in Halifax?
You are going to love this.
Go on, describe it. I bought a boat as well. You bought a boat. Bought a boat. We've all bought boat.
Yeah, the Imperial Japanese destroyer, the Shimokai, which it was a lucky ship because it went all the way through the war. And actually, I think it survived the war. I think it came through the other end. And there weren't many of them that did. So, yep, I had a look at that. And it wasn't cheap.
What did you pay for that?
Well, it was 56 quid minus my 10%. So it would have been, go on.
Oh, Mark, I've got one that I'm doing for 45.
Yeah, I would have had it. I would definitely put the business your way. Are you doing fly art kits yet?
Funny you should say that. I've got 3 on the way from China right now. Victorious, Hermes, and...
Put my name down.
Do you want Victorious?
Victorious, please. Mike knows I've been looking at this, haven't I, Mike?
Well, I'm getting 2 of each. So in fact, there's 4 coming. I've got Victorious, Hermes, Agincourt, Indefatigable.
Oh, no, we mentioned that one and all. I think,
Agincourt as well. We was on about these literally a couple of days ago.
wasn't it yesterday?
I had 2 of each because obviously I'm obsessed with the fly-out kits. I've never built one yet, but they're gorgeous and I love them. So I've bought 2 of each so that I'll keep one and sell 1 of each.
I built the Campbelltown. I got the deluxe one of the Campbelltown, and that was fiddly to say the least, but it is tiny.
You're an enabler, Nib.
He's a dealer, but it's like opening the floodgates almost literally, isn't it? Like, as soon as you...
Have you got the full hull ones as well?
Oh, of course, Mark, yeah. I mean, the only problem is Agincourt and Indefatigable don't come in full hull. Whether I can 3D print one, I don't know, potentially.
Yeah, they do it as a separate thing.
Do they? Right, I'll have to have a look. But Victorious and Hermes are obviously full hull.
And we've obviously mentioned that you've got a shop, Nevs. What's the web address again?
So the best web address, because the website, it currently looks like something from the 90s, but the shop website is Pond Stones, not Pound Stones, as someone else erroneously said, and then was trying to hold me to pound a kit, but pondstones.sumupstore.com, and that takes you to all the website. All my products are listed there. You can go by category, A to Z, everything like that.
Good prices, listeners, I have to say. Nev's prices are very good.
Just before we go off, another thing I bought this week, picked up some of this stuff from Ultimate Model Shop, and it's an acrylic airbrush thinner, but they say will do any paint. And so this afternoon for an hour, I went through all my acrylics, including some of the guns, Tamiya, and it does them all brilliantly. Absolutely super. Brilliant stuff.
Is that Ultimate Modelling Products Gold?
Yeah.
Right, with that then, why?
I had a bit of a respite actually from the Bolton show, which was so tiring. I actually just slept for basically a day after it. So I've gone for a palette cleanser because I did rush my Tamiya build, which for certain people who like YouTube, and there is a channel, I think it's called Ms. Modeler, is it?
Ms. Modeler, yeah.
Yeah. And she goes through our Bolton stand and she focused in. She couldn't get the focus in on my F16 because of the flares and chaff were doing weird things to her camera. So I finished off that one and I thought I needed something quick and easy to have a go at. So what I did was I dug out this Ockwolf 190A made by a company called F Toys, which is like a Japanese firm. And all right, no hating now. It's pre-painted. I just needed a break. But as you start putting it together, it actually goes together really nicely. Obviously, being a Japanese kit. And I started to look at it and it's got full engine detail, and I started to go a little bit to town on it because I started detailing the actual kit itself. Because despite the name F-Toy, it's not actually a toy, it's a proper kit. It's just that it's been pre-painted, that's all. The 70 scale. But the engine is absolutely tiny. And it's 60 parts of less, so that was a good thing. So I've been working on that one, and it's like most things, unlike Martin, obviously. I thought, oh, right, I'll stick it on a Dio. I'll stick it on a nice little airfield diorama. So I started working up something with that one, and with that one I got out the old, what they call now, Prizer figures. So I've gone through my German Prizer figures, so I've got some of them. So that looks quite nice. And then I thought, it's missing something.
Bullseye up.
No, it's not that. It is missing
Don't tell me it was deckled as well.
when you look at a composition on a diorama, it's like a photograph, isn't it? You have to get it's the art of thirds in photography and composition. And I thought there's something missing from the end of it. So I had to dig through and ended up building a Kubelwagen from Fujimi, one of their really clunky old ones. So I've been detailing that. Considering this is supposed to be a respite and a quick kit, it's ended up being a bloody nightmare now. Because I've now bought some foliage and I've had to do my research on where these aircraft were and
Advanced modelling syndrome.
Yeah, absolutely. Just thinking exactly the same thing.
It's a slippery road.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. That flipping rabbit hole. So it got down to all of that stuff. And when I went through the Fujimi kit, there was an officer in there doing the salute, if you know what I mean.
Is that the one that comes in the staunch?
Yeah. Well, there's a motorcycle kit which came with it, so I'm not built that. But there was an officer and a driver, and the officer's doing a certain salute. And I thought about, oh, right, okay, is that right? Do I put it in? Do I not put it in? And the more I dug through, I found out that the Luftwaffe didn't do that salute until after the 20th of July, 44, because,
Really?
yeah, it was after the assassination attempt. And because they're used to saluting the normal way, but after the assassination attempt, I think it was in the forest, wasn't it? Where,
The Wolf Slayer, wasn't it?
yeah, that's it. Was it? Yeah, it was Wolf Slayer, not the Eagle's Nest. That was the other one, wasn't it? So after that, then to prove your loyalty, that's when they started doing the naughty salute. So yeah, that was something where a complete rabbit hole you go down when you start looking at dioramas and things. So there's that one, and that's still in place. I'm just waiting for coffee stirrers, would you believe? Now, I could go to my local coffee shop, Costa's, and other mates are available, and buy a coffee and just raid it. But I thought, so yes, so I've been building that. And in the meantime, in the background, talking to you guys, been playing around still with this Dornier 217E and the ME328 Mistel. So I'm still working with that one. It's a horrible kit. It harks back from 1950 whatever, but I thought I'd play with it, you know. Something old, my age. Actually, not my age. It's a lot older than me, that one. But,
Well, it's not made out of stone.
yeah, you carve it yourself. So that's what I've been building. And that's about it, really, for building at the minute.
Okay, and what have you been spending your cash on?
Well, funny enough, coffee stirrer sticks.
Oh,
So there you have it. No, I've actually been on Facebook auction site, and having looked at Copper State models, bowlers will know what I'm talking about because we had them over to our show, our first international traders. I was looking at the kit, but I didn't have enough time to go back. So I ended up having to buy one on the Facebook site, which was, what's it called again? It's the French one, wasn't it?
It's the new model.
The Newport XX V11. Yeah. It's a biplane and it's got lots of rigging.
It's either a Newport 17 or a Newport 28. It'll be one of them.
I think it's the 28.
I've got the 28 as well. Beautiful.
Yeah. It's a lovely kit. Having looked at the instructions, by the way, I've looked at them online because I've still not got the kit. It looks of, dare I say, a sort of wingnut wings type-esque instruction sheet. Very, very detailed. And yeah, I'm facing my demons with rigging. That's all. So there you go. So I'll be playing with that before I head back out to the far east of Bolton.
When you're due to go back over to Hong Kong?
Probably April.
But get your shopping lists in.
Yeah, get your shopping list in, lads. Oh, blimey, hang on. I've only got 23 kilo. You'll have to ask Martin to do a detour and pick some up.
I will say, Wongy, that the God hands you got me, they are like cutting butter. Are unbelievable. Really, really impressed with them. Love them.
Fishcop Models, elevating scale modeling to an art form. Experience highly detailed 3D printed upgrade parts that bring true authenticity to your builds. Creators of the acclaimed Rolls-Royce Merlin engine set for both the Kotare Spitfire and the Dambusters set for the border models Avro Lancaster. For bespoke design and printing, our service is as precise as it is personal, all at a reasonable price. Please take a look at our products on www.fishcopcompany.de. Shipping is available for all of our products worldwide.
Here comes the Stash Inflation Report, separating genuine must-haves from, well, it was on pre-order anyway.
Right then, Benchmates, welcome to the dangerous part of the show where we keep you informed about new releases and accidentally help your stash grow without your permission. Yes, it's time for the Stash Inflation Report. A lot to get through this time, especially on the aviation side, so let's dive straight in. First up, fire molds are bringing some interesting subjects back into circulation. We've got the 1 to 72nd Imperial Japanese Navy 12 Test Ship Fighter, alongside the Imperial Navy Okinawa Type 32. Both welcome revivals that should be appealing to anyone building Imperial Japanese aviation subjects or looking for something a little less mainstream. And speaking of revivals, the Messerschmitt fans are about to get very busy. Fire molds are continuing their 72nd Messerschmitt series with a 4-point lineup including the BF-109 F2, the BF-109 F4 Trop Marseille, the BF-109 G10 from the Regensburg factory, and the BF-109 K4 Hartmann Final Combat. So yes, plenty of Emil and Gustav lineage there for anyone who enjoys their Luftwaffe subjects with a strong historical context and iconic pilot connections. Moving across now, Hobby 2000 have some interesting reboxes on the way. They are releasing 2 versions of the 48 scale Hawker Typhoon Mark 1B Cardo, covering both 1942 and 1943 configurations. These are based on well-regarded Hasegawa tooling, but updated with cartograph decals and masks included, which honestly is a very welcoming addition for anyone who values their sanity during painting. Also from Hobby 2000, a 1 to 72nd Nakajima J1N1 S Gecko late version, plus both the early and late variants of the Aichi E16A1 Zuin floatplane, again using Fujima tooling combined with cartograph decals and masks. So a nice mix of Japanese subjects getting some modern presentation and accessibility. Now over to Kovozavodi, and they've been busy. They're releasing a new tool, 72nd Pilatus PC7 MKX, covering multiple operators including Switzerland, the French Air Force, the Belgian Air Force and the Dutch Air Force, featuring 3D designed masters, printed details and masks. Alongside that, the Pilatus PC7 Astra 2 International, again a new tool with a modern design approach. They're also bringing out a series of Aramaki MB339 light attack aircrafts in the high-tech kit version, plus a Dassault MD450 in Indian Air Force markings and a range of Dassault Uragan Planter variants, all with newly designed masters and 3D printed seats, which shows just how much hybrid design methods are becoming the norm now. Speaking of interesting choices, Board and Model have announced two rather unexpected 1/35th scale aircraft, the ME262 and the P-38 Lightning. Yes, aircraft in armour scale, so expect some very interesting crossovers between aircraft builders and AFV diorama fans there. And now for something completely left field. Monster Kit have launched a Kickstarter project focusing on hybrid kits, large injection moulded parts combined with 3D printed elements, and they're thinking big, and I mean very big. We're talking potential 1/32nd scale releases, including the Dassault Rafale B, the Saab JS39 Gripen, the Dassault Alpha Jet, the F-22 Raptor, the Sukhoi Su-57, the AS-32 Super Puma, the Kamov Ka-52 Alligator, the Airbus H225 Caracal, and finally the monster, which is the CH-53 Super Stallion. And just to give you an idea of scale here, they've estimated manufacturing costs for the Super Stallion between 300,000 and 500,000 euro, which shows both the ambition and the challenge behind the projects like this. So this is definitely one to watch. And finally, Kotare Models have announced their latest exclusive limited edition numbered kit, the 1/32nd Defiant Mark 1, retailing around $125 US. Given Kotare's track record for research and engineering, this is likely to generate plenty of interest, especially among the RAF and World War II aircraft enthusiasts.
And just as we put this episode's stash inflation to bed, we've pulled yet another metaphorical rabbit out of the hat with the announcement from Kotare of the 132nd Bolt & Paul Defiant. Kia ora, Mark, and welcome back to the show.
Kia ora, Brownie. Beautiful pronunciation.
My time in New Zealand that did that. Both visits. So go on then, 132nd Defiant. My order was placed as soon as I saw the announcement. Are you copying the 148th Halifax model with this one? Give us the details.
Yes, it is. And we're very aware that it can look like we're sort of pushing our luck, asking people to buy things that are a couple of years away from production. But I think we've built enough trust with the community. And as I've said before, it speeds things up. So we could keep working with our Spitfires, our Hurricane, our upcoming Messerschmitt, and the funds will accumulate. Or we can see who wants to jump in quickly. And it basically speeds it up by a year, because I needed to hire Nick Moore, who's come back to model design from industry in Wellington. And he was looking for work and he was going to get grabbed by somebody else. Ex-Wingnut Wings designers they don't sit unemployed for very long. And he was building a full portfolio of smaller projects. And I was like, how can we grab Nick? Because CAD designers, as you know, are rare beasts. So yeah, it's the same model. And what that means is people get a say in how it looks. It's not a top-down process. It's a collaborative process. The Halifax project will have some big updates over the next week or two, but everybody gets to say rivets or no rivets, what's in the first boxing, what exact color schemes will we have in addition to the box art one, which will be the box art and will be one of the schemes. So yeah, collaborative project.
Okay. You said in the announcement that the particular release that comes out for the first 5,000 won't be released again for 5 years. Is that the Defiant in total, or is that just for the Dayfighter version?
So that boxing with that box art, the first boxing will never be released again. So those 5,000 will be collectible in a way. 5,000 is a lot to make a collectible subject, but they will be individually numbered, just like the PR Spitfire that we've just sent out. So the part set, so that exact Dayfighter part set won't be released for 5 years at least, just to allow room for the market to, enjoy their product and, again, underline the collectability of that first edition. But that doesn't mean we couldn't have a second boxing that's a Target Tugger or not Night Fighter. But again, I've seen some interesting speculation about costings online. It's amazing what people think they know about the industry. But we don't have to do a second boxing for the project to make a bit of profit. I'm never going to drive a Ferrari. I'm driving a 20-year-old Subaru at the moment, so the money goes into the models. and we can make money on a boxing selling just 5,000. But if there is a second boxing possible, again, with support of the community who've bought in, then we'll do it.
Fantastic. You got me at the word target tug because I desperately need one of those in 30-second. Nobody's ever put 10 air gunnery score into a box before, decal-wise.
Oh, really?
So,
What's your connection?
I was the manager of air traffic at Warley Island, which was the home for 10 air gunnery score all the way through World War II.
Oh, wow.
So there was a connection with the aircraft type as it was operational all the way through. Although there were some night fighters and day fighters that were used to train gunners in the back using the turret, they also had the target tugs there to actually use as the target to fly and fire at.
Right. So does the airfield now look like it did back then, or is it all built up around there now?
Unfortunately, due to most buildings for World War II were designed with a life expectancy of around about 5 to 10 years maximum.
Right.
The old control tower and one of the hangars are the last structures still standing, with the exception of the air raid shelters. And unfortunately, 85 years plus.
Right.
And unfortunately, the time is numbered.
Right. Understand.
But anyway, you said about getting Nick Moore back on board. So you've actually got the complete Wings design team on board now?
Not yet, Wing, not yet. So a lot of designers went through Wing Nut Wings over the years, but there's another designer who I won't mention, currently still living in Wellington. So he hasn't received the message from me yet, but that gentleman will be getting one. So we've got to be careful. It's easy to fly too high and crash to the ground. So this incremental building of the staff over what's been coming up 6 years now. So it's not lightning fast, but as you've heard me say before, the lead time is so long. It's like at least 2 years to get a model on the market. You sort of have to, it's like an avalanche, very slowly coming down the hill. It's slowly building up. But yeah, and I'm not stopping there, by the way. You've heard me say before, there's 80 or 90 projects I want to do before I die, and we're producing maybe 2 or 3 a year. So we need more designers. So anybody with skills should drop me a line.
Fair enough. Okay, during the video you mentioned you've discovered some issues potentially around the turret and the way that that's actually going to produce in the kit. Does that mean you've actually started design work, or are you just looking at the way that that's actually going to be produced?
Not yet. So the turrets are just complex, right? With the Halifax, I've been staring at World War II pictures, and Daryl's got. So with the Halifax turrets, which are fundamentally similar, as a non-engineer, the way they work just baffles me, and how we're going to actually mold those accurately in plastic, given that we can't do 3D printing. So everybody's aware of Peter's beautiful S-scale Defiant, which he very kindly sent me a copy of. So as most people know, design for 3D print and design for injection molding are two quite different skills and approaches. So I must say, I knocked together the Airfix 48 scale one to help Daryl, the box artist. Sometimes what I'll do for Daryl is build a kit and then sort of photograph it in exactly the same pose that we've got it in the box art, so you can get the angles and orientation correct. He's very, very good, but there's there's very few photos of a Defiant flying exactly how we want it. So the FX 48 scale turret is actually really detailed. Have you built that kit?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes, I know what you mean.
and when I had the model shop, the FX Defiants in 72nd scale and 48 scale were really good sellers. This is one of the reasons I decided we were going to do it, is that in those two scales, the Airfix ones, I think, have sold really well, and other hobby shop owners have corroborated that. So there is a market for the Defiant, I believe, but the turret adds to the complexity. That's why the price is a little bit higher. That turret alone is probably 2 months of design work for injection molding.
Yeah. Would you consider doing the frame and then putting the perspex in as a separate?
We'll consider everything. And on that note, I'm just waiting to find one of the new fine molds zeros where they've done that in 48 scale. So with the Halifax group, we've talked about, it's 48 scale, of course, but we've talked about even with the main canopy, whether that's possible. I'm really interested to see how fine molds have done it, but don't know at this point, Brownie. We'll definitely consider it.
Fair enough. Okay, earlier you mentioned the Hurricane and the artwork which has just been released, which looks absolutely superb as ever. He's done a fantastic job on it. We've previously talked about the effect of fabric that you were hoping to try and achieve in the moulding.
Yeah, I think it looks great. It's going to cause some consternation, So I've said before, the fabric wings, the stringers, I guess the solid bits that the fabric is stretched over, actually have a U channel section, and so there's a rib, but then the fabric sucks down into the U-shaped section. So there's ridges with recessed lines that are irregular because it was a organic process. So I think some people are going to be surprised, and Richard, with his amazing ability to extract information from photos, at the club on Tuesday night, people were surprised by the diagonal lines running over the wings, which were how the fabric was actually stitched in. And when I opened the box of the test shot, I was like, oh my God, what have they done? Meaning, what have Darren and Richard done? Went to the wing leader book, and then right in front of you, there are those lines. But I don't know, my eye just never really noticed them before. And of course, they'll be covered by paint, so they'll look beautiful. But I think people are going to look and go, what the hell are those? And I don't know that anybody's molded those into a fabric wing Hurricane before.
Perhaps just one of those cutaway or close-up photographs that you include in the instructions, maybe actually need to focus on part of that just to say it was there.
Yes. Well, I'm encouraging Richard to go back with the instructions just like on it. I think I mentioned before on one of the podcasts that there's a lot more variation in those first 1,000 Hurricanes than people all really have grasped, including me. So, my principle of evidence-based modeling, I haven't really talked much about that. I'm going to develop that theory, evidence-based modeling, to match up with evidence-based medicine. But yes, anything we do that is going to catch people by surprise, we should put a photo in the instructions.
Yeah.
So that's in process. The instructions that's Richard's baby, this one. So I'd say he's at least 50% done now.
Cool. And what sort of time frame are we looking for delivery?
Oh my God, I get myself into trouble all the time.
Approximately.
I'm going to say June.
Okay, fair enough.
So the test shot report, even though I reckon we could put this Hurricane on the market now and it would be applauded, but there's enough things that need fixing that the test shot report has over 120 items on it.
Fair enough.
Because you're not going to make it, but you're gunning for perfection. And the molding company we've used is the same as with the Messerschmitt. They're capable of extremely precise molding. So we're going to, within the bounds of economic reality, we're going to gun for perfection. I know, hubris and all that, but we might as well try.
Well, you did exactly the same with the Spitfire 5B. I ordered it the day it was released on that round of sales, and it was well worth the wait. It was a superb kit. I think it's absolutely beautiful.
Thanks you.
I'm just waiting for the mid version now. Hurry up.
Yeah, well, there'll be an early mid, a late mid, an early late, a mid late, a late late. No, I'm joking. But Richard has this encyclopedic knowledge of the canopy types, the release mechanisms, the gun covers, all that stuff. So yeah, we'll look forward to your order, Brownie.
As per usual, yes. Obviously, you've got other projects that are ongoing at the moment. Have you got any updates that you want to share on any of the other projects?
Yeah, so the P40, Jason McAdams working like an absolute beast on the P47. It's looking amazing. He sent me the breakdown of the engine the other day, and they, with him and his talents and Richard guiding him, I was looking at the R2800 in I'm just going to say a big scale world leading kit recently. That's about 20 years old, and I think our engine is going to be a quantum leap above that one. Probably just improved molding technology and CAD design, because we've had so much information about the P47. He's been able to build what I think is an incredibly accurate CAD, although we're still looking to LiDAR scan a P47, almost like a quality control check, and there's an R2800 down here at Ardmore, which is south of Auckland, which is a flying club base and also a base for restoration. So there's a beautiful, fairly early R2800 on a stand down there on display. So that'll be our first local LiDAR scan, and we'll be learning that technology too.
Cool. Okay. Anything else? Halifax?
So the Halifax, Darren, we've been quiet on that just because the holiday season here. Darren had a couple of weeks off with his kids, which is great. He's a family man. The core architecture is all done now, and we've made a pretty big decision, which I need to take to the group this week, the people who bought in. We're going to break the nose exactly where it was broken on the real Halifax, which is about a quarter of the way down the Bombay, knowing that it's a little bit of a technological risk to get a perfect fit there. But with the different noses of the Mark II, with the Tara, with the Tollerton nose, and then with the Perspex that became standard for the Mark III, there's just too much variation in the extreme nose to do all that. And there's some weird variations of the windows as well. So Darren's persuaded me, and I think he's right, but again, we'll get feedback that we can do this. And the beauty of that is 2/3 of the join will be hidden by the wing roots and the Bombay. So we can build the structural element that links the two together so that no glue has to go in the joint line. And there is a more prominent joint line, panel line there on the real Halifax. The lap panels stop where that nose came off. So I'll put some photos out that most people will have seen before. But that's a pretty major decision. Later this year, when Jason's finished the P47, he's going to do a few months, probably things like the Bombay and undercarriage bays of the Halifax. We're working to, not a deadline, but a target of 2028. So we've got to have that ready for moulding at least a year before the intended release date.
Yep.
So it's going well.
Cool. Looked fantastic. I look forward to actually seeing that when it actually hits the shelves. But it makes perfect sense to actually split it as a transportation joint as per the real aircraft.
Yes.
It gives you every opportunity then for anything else, the same way the Blenheim has a different nose on the Bolingbroke, etc., etc. So it just makes perfect sense.
Well, when we do our 32nd scale Blenheim Mark I for the Battle of Britain collection, we'll remember that.
Oh, that's going to get everyone started, isn't it? Anyway, Mark, thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome.
Unless you have anything else you want to share with us.
Happy modelling, everyone. I hope it's not too cold and wet in Britain. And good luck for the World Cup this year to the English football team.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
And Scotland.
Yeah, we won't mention Wales where I work now because that'll just get them really upset. But anyway, thanks, Mark. We'll speak to you again in the future when you actually drop another surprise at the last minute for us.
Okay. See you, Brady.
Thanks, mate.
Right, that's enough of aviation temptation from me because the Stash Inflation Report is a team effort and we're now shifting gears as we hand over to Dan, who's got more armour and AFV releases ready to continue the damage. Dan, over to you.
Cheers, builders. And yes, somehow it gets even more dangerous from here. Right, Benchmates, onwards with the armour and AFV side of Stash Inflation. And first up, we've got something that isn't technically plastic, but will absolutely result in more plastic appearing on your workbench. Panzerrex Publishing have announced a new title, Panzerdivision Münchberg, From Formation to Berlin 1945. Now, if you've ever owned a Panzerrex book, you'll know these aren't casual reading. They're the kind of reference material that quietly turns a simple build into a full historical research project. Written by Robert Krasker, Martin Bloch and Torsten Feudel. This one focuses on very late war German formation fighting during the final days around Berlin, which means obscure vehicles, unusual camouflage, film modifications, basically catnip for armour modelers who like their subjects a little less mainstream. It'll be the familiar landscape hardcover format, so proper weighty reference material with page count and price still under wraps at the moment. The waiting list is open already though, so if your research shelf is groaning slightly less than your kit stash, you know what to do. Moving on, and Fine Moulds have brought back a couple of interesting modern AFV adjacent vehicles in 1/35th scale. They're talking about Japanese Ground Self-Defense Force Type 73 small truck, and this time it's arriving in two rather enthusiastic configurations. First, the bazooka cannon mounted version, which proves that even a small utility truck can have serious main character energy, and alongside it the MAT missile equipped variant. compact, heavily armed, and absolutely perfect for anyone wanting something modern but slightly off the beaten path compared to your usual NATO subjects. These shipped on February the 17th, so expect them to start popping up at retailers very soon. And judging by how different they look on the shelf, I suspect a few of you will end up with both, purely for research purposes, obviously. And finally, something a little left field, but definitely AFE adjacent in spirit. ScaleX have teased a 1/16 scale of Norfolk's finest steam-powered Burrell traction engine. And honestly, this looks like industrial age armour modelling. Steam power, exposed mechanics, heavy engineering vibes, basically a weathering playground disguised as agricultural machinery. It's a precision 16K 3D print kit coming this summer, and if you enjoy metallic finishes, grease effects, or just building something with serious mechanical character, then this could be a fascinating project. You could even add a Fred Dibner figure to create a tribute diorama to a great British steam preservation legend. So overall, a deep dive historical research, modern Japanese light vehicles of attitude, and a dose of steam-powered engineering nostalgia, which means stash inflation continues and storage space continues to lose. Right, that's me done on the armour side. Nevs, I'm guessing you've been hanging around the dock gates again, so time to head out onto the open water, mate. Over to you.
And a big thanks to Dan for those armour updates. As ever, proving that if it has tracks and a gun, someone somewhere is about to need a bigger shelf. Right, folks, let's head out to sea. We'll start in the Cold War depths because OKB Grigorov are continuing their run of submarines with a 1-350th Soviet Victor II class attack submarine, Project 671RT Simonga. This will be a resin kit made up of just 8 parts, so clean, sharp, no fuss. You also get a stand with the Soviet designation included, which always adds a nice display touch. The Victor II was very much a product of an underwater cat and mouse era, fast, quiet for its time, and built to counter NATO subs in the North Atlantic. If you like your subjects sleek and purposeful, this one ticks those boxes. Now, staying historical, but in a very different way, SS Model are releasing something rather intriguing in 1/700 scale. This is IJN Karga, but it's not the Karga that we all know. Instead, this is the Tosa class battleship hull that Karga was originally intended to be before the Washington Naval Treaty stepped in and rewrote naval history. What we're getting here is effectively an alternate timeline in plastic, or rather resin, because this is a 3D printed waterline kit to begin with. But if SS Model follow form, expect a full hull version not long after. It's one of those releases that makes you pause and think, what if that treaty hadn't happened? What would that battle line have looked like? It's a very cool subject for the historically curious amongst us. Now, fast forwarding to modern steel. I love kit adding to their 1/200th scale line with USS Michael Murphy, the Arleigh Burke class destroyer. This will likely follow the baseline tooling first seen in 2023, with new parts specific to the Murphy. At 1/200th scale, these are sizable builds, a real presence on the shelf, and the detail level on modern US Navy subjects at that size can be very impressive. Now finally, one with real history attached. Trumpeter are re-releasing their 1/200th Fletcher class destroyer, but this time as USS the Sullivans. Now this is no simple reboxing. The Sullivans is the only ship in US Navy history named after more than one person. The 5 Sullivan brothers who tragically lost their lives together aboard USS Juno in 1942. The story changed naval policy forever regarding family members serving simultaneously in the armed forces. This updated boxing is expected to include a late production square bridge and the significantly enhanced anti-aircraft suite that the ship carried later in the war compared to the early Fletchers. So don't just prepare yourself for a new decal sheet. This will be proper configuration changes. It's one of those builds that carries weight beyond the plastic. So, whether it's Cold War submarines, treaty-era what-ifs, modern Aegis Greyhounds, or storied Second World War destroyers, the stash inflation index for naval modelers is definitely holding steady. Right then, if you thought ships were expensive, wait until we cross into the world of premium Bandai and limited run plastic. I'm handing you guys over now to Shane for the very latest from the world of Gundam, Gunpla, and all things mecha. Over to you, Shane.
Thanks, Nevs. Alright then, Benchmates. It's time for your Gunpla and mecha update. There's a few to get through here. Let's get cracking. First up is something a little different here, guys, because via the official Blokey's Facebook account, we've had our first look at the prototypes for the Transformers T02 wave. This is the second wave of their easy build 1/64 scale Ultimate Transformers. Here's something to be aware of though, guys. These are sold in blind box format, but the confirmed characters include Roadbuster, Overlord in jet form, Iron Fist, and Breakdown. So these are designed as quick build desk pieces rather than that hardcore modelling project, which could be perfect as a palette cleanser between serious builds. The prices are still to be confirmed, so watch this space. And just be prepared for duplicates, especially if those blind box gods are unkind. Next up, this one might divide some opinions. Supermodel MG 100 scale Zaku 2 is essentially a third-party take on the legendary Bandai MG20 frame. We are firmly in clone territory here, so the build difficulty may come from the classic Zaku piping, so the patience might be required. But here's the kicker. The expected price is between £20 and £30. This one is a really affordable entry into that master grade level engineering. Would it be worth it? Well, if the quality holds up, this could be a budget-friendly way into your MG builds. Right, moving into SD territory now, but not as you know it. EC model, they're introducing a master grade super deformed range through their SR02, which is a heavily stylized MG SD style interpretation of Gundam Vidar from the Iron Blood Orphans series. So expect some high density detail on in this one, internal framing engineering, stylized proportions and serious presence. Price sits between 35 and 40 for this one, which could make it a very appealing alternative if you like SD kits. Now, take a deep breath on this one, guys. From Gundam 0083 Stardust Mercury comes the Neil Zeal model kit, which I say is ridiculous because it's 64 centimeters tall, 67 centimeters wide, around 1,700 parts. Built-in electronics with roughly 50, that's right, 50 PCBs, massive lighting effects. We're talking 55 lighting points, rotating effects, flashing weapon sequences. It's basically a full engineering project, but disguised as a model kit. It's limited to 4,888 units. Price? Well, like I said, prepare yourselves, guys. £450 for this one. This one's not a kit, it's a lifestyle choice. Right, so after that, if you want a centerpiece build without going fully insane, ENS model have introduced their 1/35th Lupus Rex, which might be in your sweet spot. The highlight in this one includes 700 parts, fully articulated body as you would expect, and over 135-degree movement joints, and along with the multiple shoulder armor options as well. Standing at around 55 centimeters tall when complete, this is clearly designed for that display impact straight out of the box. And prices, well, these are a bit more respectable. These land between £150 and £200, which is still serious money, but it has serious presence too. Right, heading back into the super deformed range, another third-party MG SD style release here with Alex 01 EX. This one's expected for release later on this year, but it was reported to have 461 parts across 28 runners. Prices are still to be confirmed, but if execution matches the ambition, this could be a good one to watch. It also offers another option for those fans looking to move beyond the Bandai options that are available at the moment. Right, penultimate model, guys, here we go. New Era RMD in 1/72nd scale. Standing at 27 centimeters tall, heavy armor layering, highly detailed inner frame, massive backpack assembly with multi-part weapon system. So the early reviews on this one, they praise the service detail and the plastic quality, reportedly almost Bandai level. but the price for this one is around £95, which sounds dangerously reasonable given the spec. And finally, ZZA model, GZ-SS01 Regis. It's a master grade spec 100 scale kit. Full skeletal inner frame, mega sniper cannon, beam sabers, modular backpack, the lot. This one includes Worx side decals as well, and alternate armor parts for customization. Pre-orders are open now, with release expected early 26. The price on this one sits between £50 and £70, depending on your retailer. But this one, honestly, I think it could be one of the best value entry kits in today's mecha market. And that is where we're parking the stash for this episode. From blind box transformers to wallet testing mega builds and everything in between. It's clear from the amount of releases in this episode that the mecha and gunfire scene, it just isn't slowing down anytime soon, guys. If anything, it's getting bigger and bolder and just a little bit more dangerous for your bank balance. As always, guys, remember, you don't have too many kits. You just have options.
It's time for the IPMS Dispatches, your regular spotlight on events, branches, and SIGs.
We haven't had a roundup of scale model shows for a while, so here's what's coming up in the UK for March. So we start off with the Peterborough Scale Model Show on Sunday the 1st, which is being held at the Stamford Welland Academy, which is on Green Lane, Stamford, Lincolnshire, Papa Echo 9 1 Hotel Echo, and they are supporting Models of Heroes. Doors open at 10, it's £5 admission, cash on the door, under 16s are free, and there are refreshments and food available. Further details are available from www.peterboroughscalemodelclub.co.uk. Next up, 7th of March, we have the Aldingbourne Model X 2026, which is on Oliver's Mead, Westergate, Chichester. Model exhibits from local clubs, traders will be in attendance, and a cafe will be open during the day. Also be a raffle of model sundries in aid of Help the Heroes, and entrance fee is £3. Children under 16 are free but must be accompanied by an adult. On Sunday the 8th, we have the Wakefield Open Model Show and Competition 2026, which is being held on Union Street, Wakefield. Traders, club stands and competitions, £5 entry plus 50p parking all day. Moving on to Saturday the 21st of March, we have the Spacecrafts Model Show, which is held at the Bista Hotel Golf and Spa. Postcode for that is Oscar X-Ray 16 1 Tango Hotel. The event is for all sci-fi, fantasy models and prop replicas in the UK. Sunday the 29th, we have the Blue Lamp Model Expo 2026, which is being held at the Woodrush High School, Shorehurst Lane in Birmingham, which the doors open at 10 AM till 4 PM, £5 entry, under 16s are free. And the postcode for that event is Bravo 475 Juliet Whiskey. So that's it for March in the UK. If you have any events you want us to actually mention, please email us at info@beyondtheboxart.com and we'll feature it in the next roundup. This next guest is someone I've been looking forward to chatting with because what he's built isn't a modelling group. It's a community in the truest sense of the word. Luke Carswell is the founder of Black Rifle Model Works, a collective that's quietly redefining what a modelling club can be. Less about committee meetings and competition tables, and far more about camaraderie, creativity, and creating a space where people can enjoy the hobby without pressure or presence, or pretense. Black Rifle Model Works, that's not easy to say, is it? Black Rifle Model Works has grown into something refreshingly different. Part modelling bench, part support network, and part brotherhood. Bringing together modellers from all backgrounds who share a love of the craft, focusing on inclusivity, mental well-being, and genuine community, while still producing some seriously impressive work at the branch. Luke, welcome to Beyond the Box Art.
Thank you. Absolute pleasure to be here.
So let's crack on, as I know you have an appointment with Airfix and Chill after this natter, so let's get into it.
Okay.
For those who might not know it yet, what is Black Rifle Model Works and how did the idea first come about?
The first thing I'm thinking I need to change the name to make it easier to say.
Oh, God, yes.
So initially, it started off, or Black Rifle Model Works started off as my own personal YouTube channel. That's how it started. The logo itself is an AR-15 carbine assault rifle.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in the military a long time ago now, was my personal weapon. So it's a silhouette of my personal weapon system. That's where that came from. And it started off as a YouTube channel, and myself and several other members of the admin team that now exist were members of another sort of online modeling group. And through, I don't know what you would call it, artistic differences, shall we say, some of us broke away, and it was sort of just post-COVID. So we used to Zoom Hangouts, etc. anyway. And then not me, someone else came up with a great idea. Why don't we start a virtual modeling club that would be affiliated to IPMS UK? Because I work shifts. A lot of the people that I know work shifts or are in different time zones. So the traditional modeling club of every second Thursday in the local village hall didn't really work, because we would perhaps make one meeting in 6 because of work patterns, etc. So I approached IPMS and sort of said, is this something that we could do? Because it would be virtual in nature, which I think we were one of the first. There's a few around, but I don't think we were the first, but we were one of the first.
Yep.
And IPMS were more than welcoming and more than happy to provide us with any assistance. So then we started the club, which is Black Rifle Model Works community group. And it's just grown from there, really. The YouTube channel still exists. I still do stuff on YouTube, but none of it has ever been monetized. So the channel isn't monetized at all. The club is funded solely by the admin team. So there's no subscription charge or anything like that. And we sort of set that out as our groundwork to start with. We wanted to create a club and a community online, but we didn't want to charge people to be part of it. Now, we're very fortunate, some of the admin team, that sort of financially we're okay. So we were able to fund it. And it's things like group build prizes, attending shows, stand costs, as you're fully aware. It's not free. So we fund all that as an admin team, and the members can be members for free. And that's where it came from.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Luke. It brings me on to the question that I was always going to start the show with. I know you mentioned your AR-15 and that was your personal weapon, but what made you choose that name for the group?
So for the group, that came off the back of the YouTube channel, because it made kind of sense that we would name the group what the YouTube channel was called. We just added community group at the end, because that's what we wanted it to be, and that's what it's become. The actual Black Rifle name, I was literally sat on my bench one day thinking about starting a YouTube channel. This is going back a number of years. And I'm a big fan of Black Rifle coffee, which is obviously veteran owned and comes from the States. And I had my Black Rifle coffee mug sat on my bench, and I'm trying to think of a YouTube name. And I looked at the mug and thought, well, that's a great name, Black Rifle Model Works. There we go. That's the YouTube name. And that's where the name from the group came from, on the back of that.
It's good job it didn't have Nescafe on there, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that means there's still room for a Nescafe model group out there, I guess.
There is indeed. Big fan of coffee.
Other brands are available.
Absolutely.
What do you think? Obviously, I know the name has origins there, but what would you say that name continuing as it has done? What does it now say about your group? Does it imbue itself in the ethos of Black Rifle Model Works?
Yeah, and it was a question that I certainly asked myself. And once we decided for it to become a club, then we had to really think, do we keep that name or do we call it something else? Because, rightly or wrongly, and without getting into all the politics of it, certainly in the UK, there is a very different approach to firearms than there is in the US, for example. People view them very differently. But the majority of us are military modelers, and it's a military grade weapon. So it kind of made sense. Although when the group first started, I was massively into and still build and paint Warhammer. So it attracted members from the gaming world almost, sort of the fantasy 40K world, that have now all built Spitfires and, and got involved in various group builds and gone more traditional scale modeling than gaming pieces. And vice versa, we've had scale modelers have, dabbled with gaming pieces and Warhammer stuff and Star Wars Legion and, and all these different areas. But we decided to keep the name really because it kind of made sense. It was a very simple logo. And not that I'm well known and don't want to be well known within the community, because that can bring its own pitfalls. But there was kind of a following for the channel anyway. So when we talked about it and got our heads there, it kind of made sense that we would capture the majority of that following into the club, and that would be a good starting point.
Okay. Well, that's really interesting. Where obviously the name has history, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. So once you've got the ball rolling, it makes sense to carry on.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's recognizable now. People, if they think Black Rifle Model Works, they think me, us as a club. It's kind of stuck. They know what it is. And it's not in any way that we're promoting firearms or any of that stuff. That's the way it went,
So, how important is the social side to BRMW? See what I did there? Community, friendship, mental well-being, compared to pure modelling skill or competition?
I think we've got a nice balance. We're very, very fortunate in some of the members are very, very accomplished modelers, and that they do very well. Competitions, whether that be for Scale Model Challenge, IPMS Nationals in the US, they do very well. But having said that, it means nothing to the club. What we're all about is whether it's the first model that you've ever put together, or you win gold in every category you put something in at Telford, it doesn't matter to us. We have a 24/7 Zoom, we call it the Hangout. It's a Zoom call, essentially, that's funded by the club, and it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you're a member of the club, you can click on the link for that Zoom call and you can go into that Hangout completely free of charge. And it's no different to this or any other sort of Zoom call. I would argue that it's similar to being sat at a model club, where you kind of sat around building and chatting, whether that be about modeling specifically or you've had a bad day at work or whatever it may be. And people get to know each other quite well and they become friends. And because it's 24 hours a day, it stretches across all time zones.
That works really well.
So, for example, if you were to go in there, I don't know, early afternoon, early evening UK time, you will find a lot of UK-based or European-based modelers in there. But if you were to go in at maybe 1, 2 in the morning UK time, it would be predominantly North America.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because of the time difference. That's when they're at their bench after their day at the office or whatever it may be. And some great friendships have been made. I mean, Jim Clark is one of our members. In 24, he flew over from Arizona in the US to come to Telford, stayed at my house. We did all the museums and all that sort of stuff. Then we did Telford. He's coming again this year. So he's doing it biannually. Last year, Antti, who's one of our admin team, came over from Finland. So it is a community that, friendships have been forged on the back of it, really, all around the world.
Well, a lot of modelers feel intimidated by traditional clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Was accessibility and inclusivity part of your design from day one?
Absolutely. So accessibility, because people can do it from home. They can be part of the club from home. They can be part of the hangout from home. They don't have to leave their bench. They don't have to pack all their tools and paints up and travel an hour to the local model club, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if people perhaps don't have a traditional working pattern, they can still be part of it. And there are people out there that want to remain almost anonymous. They want to be part of a club and they want to get involved in group builds and that sort of thing. But they don't necessarily maybe have the confidence to walk into the village hall on a Thursday evening. And sadly, I've done that before, and it's not always the most welcoming of environments.
No.
And I think that there's a stigma attached to it.
Mm.
We don't suffer from that at all. And as I said, we've had people that traditionally built Warhammer, for example,
Mm-hmm.
and now are building Spitfires and F-35s and 35th scale armor and vice versa. So it's broken down a lot of those barriers that perhaps, or perceived barriers over there.
Yeah, it is. And Luke, just touching on that, how does, I know you mentioned that Black Rifle is useful at breaking down those barriers. How do you take the modeler through different stages? How would you support modelers from whether they're total beginners or completely experienced builders? How does that work?
I mean, it's not really been a conscious thing that's happened. It's just kind of organically grown in the way it's grown. But the admin team, really, we don't have to do a lot. It kind of self-polices and self-runs within the group. And I've never ever come across, when someone's asked a question about a particular technique or a subject or whatever it may be, the amount of answers, and whether they be from mediocre modelers like myself or some of the best modelers in the world, they get the answers. And people have said, well, just jump in the Hangout and I'll show you how to do it. It's just organically gone that way. And I think that's hopefully because of the ethos of the admin team, that there's no smoke and mirrors, no sort of, well, we know how to do it, but we're not going to tell you. You've got to earn your stripes sort of thing, which can be a perceived barrier to a lot of people getting into the hobby, that, well, we had to learn how to scratch build and we had to learn how to fill and sand, so must you. And we're not going to tell you the tips and tricks that we've learned along the way. And there's none of that. There is none of that. And I would say every day, even now, I still learn from other members. Every day I'll learn something. It may be something big or it may be something small. There's such a sharing nature within the group. And I think that's one of the reasons why it works.
Yeah, we're all on a journey, aren't we?
Absolutely.
We're all a work in progress.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do you think the traditional IPMS branch model needs to evolve? And if so, what could it learn from what you're doing?
It's a good question. I think there will always be a place for the physical model club. I think that's important. And I would think that certainly myself and working shifts and stuff, we're absolutely in the minority.
Mm-hmm.
Most people do work this sort of more traditional 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. That is the way we are in society. So I think there is a place for the physical club and the physical meeting and the social aspect that comes from that. Having said that, I do think that IPMS UK do need to evolve, and they need to embrace the technology that now is so prevalent and becoming more and more prevalent in the hobby. This, for example, go back 5 or 6 years, podcasts weren't really a thing. Now they are.
Yeah.
Live streams on YouTube weren't really a thing. Now they are. Zoom hangouts or Zoom calls weren't really a thing. Now they are. Social media in every shape and form. There's lots of modeling related content. And I think if people don't embrace it, they end up missing out on quite a lot. Because there is so much information out there and so much good content. It needs to evolve, I think, and kind of embrace that.
Yeah.
Rather than just be sometimes dismissive of podcasts, live streams, YouTube channels, and all the stuff that has evolved over time, because that's the way it will go. And if you're certainly trying to attract younger members, then as we all know, my partner has 2 teenage children. That's their life. It's part of the very fabric of their existence, social media. So to not embrace that can potentially, or have the potential to, alienate a large section of the community that we actually want to attract.
Yeah, agreed.
So I think it's important they evolve, But I also think there will always be a place for the physical club. We all know when we go to shows how good that is. And we as a club will display at shows. We do have a physical presence at shows. We can't get to as many as we'd like, but we get to the ones we can. Because I still think that has a place and it's still important.
Yeah, I agree. Looking at the demographic that was at Scale Model World last year, I don't know if you actually picked up on it as well, but there seemed to be a larger percentage of younger modelers.
Yeah.
When I say younger, I mean early 20s to 30s, compared to what, Nevs is actually pointing at himself, but, we're talking about age, not IQ.
Yeah, I think some of that, and IPMS UK certainly have to take credit because they have embraced things like Gunpla, things like Warhammer models, so on and so on. And I hear it all the time. I'll post a Warhammer piece somewhere. I don't play the game anymore because I don't have the time, but I certainly still build and paint. And you will hear in certain areas, well, that's not real modeling. It kind of is because we're sticking plastic together and painting it. So I don't understand why it's any different to a 48 scale aircraft. But I think IPMS UK, to their credit, have embraced these newer genres, which will naturally attract a younger demographic. It will. And we've seen that within our group because they're things that they can identify with. Whereas perhaps the World War I biplane or the World War II single prop fighter, it's not something that younger people necessarily identify with straight away.
No.
Now, what has happened as a consequence is they've ended up building Spitfires because we had a Spitfire group built, but it's not their genre of choice initially. So you need something to draw those people in. And the Warhammer pieces we had on display at Scale Model World, last one just gone, 25, seem to attract more attention and more questions than any of the traditional scale models.
Because it's different?
So that was great to see. It was great.
Because it was different?
Yeah, because it was different. And I think by being different, people are interested.
Yes.
How did you do that? Or what is that? Because they look cool. Like a 40k tank looks cool. It's an interesting visual thing to look at that perhaps it could be argued, and I build everything, but it could be argued that it's more visually interesting than a Cromwell.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore it would generate questions because people may not have seen that before.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know a lot of armor modelers that built, 35th scale armor is the scale of choice for most, although 48th is making a indents into it.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of armor modelers that have gone away and bought Warhammer or Star Wars Legion type armor because it's a tank, but it's just a bit interesting and you can paint it red and you can paint it yellow and it's a thing.
And you can be told off for putting it in the wrong colours.
Oh, you can.
Okay. But who knows? It's not real. Exactly my point. Okay.
But the techniques that you'll often find with your Warhammer painters are quite often a bit more advanced than your typical 48th aircraft builder.
Yeah, and that's how I initially came across that. So I started off, building 35th scale armor, 48 scale aircraft. That's how I got into the hobby. But then what I decided to do, probably just as COVID became a thing and we all went into lockdown and all that sort of stuff. Now, I didn't lock down because of my job. We were busier than ever. But I decided that next to or on some of these 35th scale armor pieces, I wanted like a crew figure or, a couple of crew stood next to it or whatever to give a sense of scale. But I was absolutely abysmal at painting figures. Unbelievably bad, right? So I thought to myself, well, who are the best people in the world at painting figures? And in my head at that time, it's the Warhammer painters. And you look at some of the Golden Demon stuff and, these are the best in the world at what they do. So I started looking at it. Now, I fell down a massive rabbit hole at that point and spent way too much money. But I learned, and I wouldn't class myself as a figure painter at all. But what I can do now is paint a face that's passable next to a 35th scale armor piece. And that's how I sort of fell into it. And then it just continued. And there was all this whole world of cool stuff that I never even knew existed.
And when you look at the quantities that Bandai, etc., actually put out in that genre in comparison to the mainstream subjects, for want of a better term, you can see why the Gunpla, etc., are actually becoming more and more, I'll say, mainstream.
Absolutely.
And also the stepping stone to actually entice people into the more conventional side, if there is such a thing these days, of the hobby.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's the way it's got to be embraced. Basically, stand still and you'll actually just be overtaken by something or somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing. And it all comes back to that evolution of the hobby. Yeah. How many times are the hobby's dying? No, it isn't. It's evolving. It's not dying.
And you look at the amount of design and technology that's actually being encompassed into model manufacture these days in comparison to what we were used to many years ago. Would you actually stop building models if you actually ended up having nothing but frog models or things of that nature available as you of the option? Or would you rather go down the Kotare route where you've actually got something that's precision engineered to actually literally fall together?
Exactly. And I think that evolution of technology and the quality to the consumer from these manufacturers will only get more and more and more. And the better the end product, the happier the consumer.
Very much so. Also, the evolution in, I'll say, technology in development for products that we actually use. I'm thinking back to 20, 30 years where you had a choice of Hurl, possibly Revell, and Tamiya were just coming out with their very first range of paints. And the putties and things that we had available to us were basically the green stuff putty, which used to sort of weld itself to plastic, and either that or milliput.
Yeah.
And that was about it. What you've got available to today, even, Tamiya bringing out the low odor, extra thin.
Yeah.
Polystyrene tube cement. That was it. Now you've actually got something that'll do the job that you always dreamed of. And it's just a case of everything is evolving.
Yeah.
And if you don't evolve along with the technology and the products you've got available to you, you'll be left behind.
I think so. I think so. And I think I consider myself very, very fortunate that I only started building models 14 years. I never did it as a child. I'm not that traditional sort of, I did it as a child in early teens and then found life and then came back to it later on. I didn't. I found it 14 years ago and haven't looked back since. But by the time I'd sort of started in the hobby, that kind of plethora of paint, weathering products was kind of already there, and it's just continued to evolve and evolve and evolve.
Yeah.
And sadly, I think some skills will be lost, I think, as it evolves. I mean, you look at scratch building as a skill set.
Yeah.
Whether I agree with it or not, that's going to be overtaken by CAD design and 3D printing.
Yes.
It is, because it's just the nature of the evolution. Now, I'm not adverse to 3D printed stuff at all. I'm terrible on CAD. I can't do it. And I'm probably too stubborn and stuck in my ways to learn how to do it. But there is such an array now of companies that will do it for you.
Yeah.
In fact, earlier today, I was looking at rotor heads for the Airfix 48 Seeking from ResKit. I'm happy to pay because I know I'm getting a quality product.
Yeah.
And it's going to look a lot better than if I use the kit part or I decided to try my hand at scratch building those wiring looms on the rotor heads and all that. It's not going to look as good. So I'm happy to pay.
Yeah.
But I think what will happen is we'll see the scale modeling, scratch building skill set will kind of not go away, but it will go into the background and be overtaken by 3D printing to a point that's happening as we speak.
Yeah.
But 3D printing is still very much in its infancy. It's not plug and play yet, but that will come.
Yes. without question.
And I think then sort of these traditional scratch builders and things perhaps will go the way that we now understand sort of wooden ship builders.
Mm-hmm.
That it will be a niche within a niche.
But you have organizations like yourselves to actually teach those that are having issues in construction how to actually bring those tools or the tool set back.
Yeah. And it's all pressing on knowledge. You know, I didn't think of dry brushing. That wasn't something that I made up myself. Someone showed me how to do. Someone showed me how to make a panel line wash from oil paint. So someone showed me that. So if I can then pass that knowledge on to someone like I was that doesn't know how to do it,
yeah,
then we keep that alive, really. But I just think eventually, within the next sort of 10 to 50 years, the ease of 3D printing will be there. It's not quite there yet, but it's coming. And now they know what's possible. It's like any technology. Once they know that it's proof of concept almost. Now that's there, it will advance at a rapid rate and not some sure. And it will be plug and play. It will be.
Without question.
There'll be, in a few years' time, you're going to go on the Airfix website and you'll have your list there, and it'll be aircraft, vehicles, whatever, and then it'll be an STL category where you just go in and grab off whatever you want to buy.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that will come. I do believe that will come.
Yeah. Well, Mick, when he was on the show, said, give it time and you'll be able to actually download not only the STL file, but it'll be actually a pre-painted STL file.
Haven't Dragon just released a 109 that's pretty much going that way?
Yeah. The slip mold, you've got all the decors for both the color scheme and then the additional markings on top of it, etc. But it's an interesting development in that I see it as being a step between Gundam and the way that those kits are actually being produced and the machining quality and the conventional kit building. Is it as designed as a stepping stone between the two?
Potentially.
To draw people in that way. It'd be interesting to see if they released anything else.
I think you will always get, and I would be one of them, there's no feeling quite like, for me, opening the lid of a brand new styrene kit where everything's bagged and on the sprues and the instructions and the decal sheet. There's something quite special about that.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why we actually go beyond the box art.
And I think that will always be a thing. But what we have to appreciate, if we're realistic, is that younger people now want almost instant gratification. And the hobby is so against many things that it's never been against before in the hobby space. Video games, virtual reality, this instant gratification almost. So for a young person now to sit down and spend 2 months putting a aircraft together, it's not really what they want to be doing.
No, quite.
But if they can put something together quite simply like a Gundam, because it's so well engineered. And, over the course of a weekend, they've got something tangible that they can manipulate the joints and they can do all that stuff with.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the way it would go. And I think then the sort of stick in the muds, of which I consider myself one, that still want that styrene kit. And I want to spend the next month sanding that seam line. And I want to do all that. Will become the wooden ship builders.
Yeah, I see exactly what you're saying.
It'll be a niche within a niche. I think that's my...
Well, Mark from Kotare, when he was on over the New Year, made an interesting comment that they have re-employed a designer that left the industry from Winglet Wings, went into a completely different industry, has come back to it, and is now designing for Kotare. And they are looking at the way that Bandai actually design and actually produced kits and looking at, is there something that can be incorporated into the Kotare design that Bandai use, and why can't we have the fit that Bandai produce on their kits in our conventional kits? Should we actually be spending a large amount of money, in some cases £100, £200, even £300, and then having to spend a long time actually trying to file things to actually make it fit, etc. When with the Bandai stuff, it's a lot cheaper and it fits together out of the box without much effort.
And I think they've always been, as a manufacturer, they've always been sort of the spearhead of technology. So I was very fortunate last year, and whether your listeners are aware, I'm sure they are, that back in the 70s, Bandai released a range of 48th and 35th scale armor. And I was very fortunate last year. We were actually at the Medway show as a club.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a gentleman there in sort of, they allow sort of private sales at that show. And he had a whole range of Bandai 48 scale armor, brand new, in the box, untouched. So I bought a German Africa Core half track from him. And other than decals, which you would expect, they're old, this thing is perfect. And as I've looked through the kit, I haven't built it yet, and I will build it on the channel this year. I haven't built it yet, but as I'm looking through, the instructions were in color. The figures are posable, and they show you how to do it. The fit is second to none. And this is a 1972 molding. And you're just like, okay, they were pretty good then.
Yes.
You know, so now in 2026, it's no surprise that they're still world leaders in what they do.
It'll be interesting when you actually do your comparison or your build on the channel to see what is different in the way that is kind of construction and methodology, but also what could possibly, in inverted commas, be enhanced.
Yeah, sure.
With modern technology.
Yeah.
Compared to what they produced back then.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there will be things, obviously, but just looking through it, and I was like, they were doing color instructions in 1972. It blows your mind, honestly.
How long has that taken to come into mainstream modeling?
It's not even there, is it?
Or come back, shall we say?
I was going to say, it's not there yet, Brownie. Come on.
Really not. Not there yet.
Oh, dear.
I mean, the Tamiya instructions from their vintage ships, bless them, like, they used to do like a little map, let's say Abe Yamato. They'd have a little map of its final journey on the front cover. So at least someone was pulling the finger out and putting the effort in, but that's by the by.
Well, we've gone completely off track as we normally do with these conversations. But anyway, Nevs.
So, Luke, for anyone listening who likes what they're hearing, how can people find Black Rifle Model Works, and what's the best way for them to get involved or join the community?
It's really, really simple. As I said, it costs people nothing to join the club. The majority of business, if you like, is done via Facebook. So there's a Facebook group, Black Rifle Model Works with an X, community group on Facebook. You can find it dead simple. It will ask you sort of 3 questions. Very simple. What's your favorite scale? Who's your favorite manufacturer? And what's your favorite genre? I think are the questions. And that's just to avoid the very nature of the internet. You will get a lot of sort of spammers and that sort of stuff. And that will then go to the admin team for approval. That'll be approved pretty much straight away. And then you're part of the club. That's it. It's that simple. Also on YouTube, Black Rifle Model Works, same name. On YouTube, there is a YouTube channel. And we're also on Instagram. So it's really, really simple, and we would welcome anyone, regardless of genre, scale, age. It doesn't matter. That's the whole ethos of the club.
Yeah. Well, when we had our Natter and build back over the Christmas period, you obviously joined us a little bit, but hopefully we can entice some of your guys to actually come up and actually join on with the next one, which will be around Easter time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in the same way, we're not actually monetizing our channels. It's just...
Yeah, we don't do that. Yeah.
No.
It's going back to that accessibility factor, you know.
Yes.
To some people, £4 a month or whatever it is for a YouTube membership is nothing. But to other people, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly.
No, so we would rather they spend that on a couple of bottles of paint.
Yep. A couple of bottles of paint?
Put it towards their next. Well, yeah, depending on which paint you're going to buy.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying exactly. And that's in exactly the same way that the pod is free of charge. You know, if someone wants to actually make a donation, fine. But
yeah,
we're trying to actually cover over our running costs by actually just using sponsorship through the ads that we run and a few people on Patreon. But to be honest, we're not just running out to get the Patreon sponsorship. It's a case of, if you want to, it's there, but we're not actually banging the drum all the time regarding it.
Yeah. And that's very, very similar to how we do things, really. It will remain free at the point of access, absolutely. And nothing will ever be behind a paywall or anything.
Well, Luke, thank you very much for your time. Much appreciated. Hopefully we can entice you to come back on again in the future and also to join us for our next Natter and Build over the Easter time. We need to set a date for that, which I just realised we haven't actually done. But Nevs, job for you.
Absolutely.
And hopefully we'll speak again in the future, my friend.
Lovely. Well, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are you looking for top quality paints for your next project? Then look no further than the Scale Modeler Supply. Hi, I'm Scott, and as a passionate modeler myself, I've spent years creating the SMS product range, designing them specifically with a scale modeler in mind. We've worked extensively to develop our acrylic lacquer paint range to not only be airbrush ready straight out of the bottle, but also to be very easy to use so that anyone of any skill level can create professional results with minimal effort. Just give the bottle a good shake, pour into your airbrush and spray at 15 psi. So dive into your next project with confidence, knowing that you're backed by one of the finest hobby paints on the market. Head over to our website scalemodeler.com.au to check out our full range and to find your closest retailer.
Beyond the Box Art is brought to you by Ammo by Mig Jimenez, Fishcob Model Company, Guideline Publications, Phase Hanger Resin Accessories, and the Scale Modelers Supply. And now, our featured interview. Conversations with the people shaping the hobby, from individual modelers to leading manufacturers, exploring every aspect of scale modelling together.
Right then, Benchmates, we are joined this episode by three of the stalwarts of Airfix. But we have Dale, Matt and Clint joining us. So good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hello. You alright?
We are very well. How are you guys doing?
Good, busy? Busy. Trying to bring everyone all the good stuff we've announced and much more, actually. So, never a dull day in Airfix HQ.
I must say, you guys must be congratulated on bringing out something that everyone has wanted for decades. One-to-one scale flowers. And I'm not joking, the number of messages we've had with people saying, my wife's interested in actually getting those kits. We want to be involved. So that's an excuse to buy a new compressor, new airbrush, new range of paints, everything they weren't allowed to spend money on because they need them for the flowers. Job done. Absolute genius.
Oh, thank you very much.
And my garden might got really good this year with some of them in.
And next year, and the year on.
Where did the idea come from?
Oh, so we did a piece of insight research about 2 years ago now, actually, because we're doing all right with what we call our core and the traditional bits and pieces you've come to love from us. And we're growing as a brand financially. We're improving bits and pieces. But we wanted to understand why we still talk to a fairly limited audience. Our products still only really appeal to a fairly limited audience. So we conducted some third-party research through this agency. So no one knew that it was us asking the questions. Basically, asked them serious questions. The top one being, what hobbies do you get involved in now? Have you ever considered plastic modeling as a hobby? These people, and by the way, it's nationally representative as well. So there's over 1,000 people that we went out to. So by that, I think everything demographic-wise, so the nation was represented there equally. And we asked them what hobbies they do now, if it's plastic modeling. If they said, oh yeah, I'm already involved in plastic modeling, then we put them in a box somewhere else and internally said, we don't need to worry about those guys. And eventually whittled them down to a cohort that was fairly sizable, actually, of people that said they've considered plastic modeling as a hobby. They don't currently actively engage in it. And we then asked them what subject matter would make them consider engaging in the hobby. And we gave them a list of 20 odd different subject types, didn't we? And one of them was space exploration. One was historical figures. There was a load of other stuff in there. The thing that came out top of the pile by far was flowers and botanicals. And the demographic of that cohort was not an audience that thought to now. And that was the most important thing all along. How do we grow this brand into areas that we are just not in for whatever reason? And the results were flowers. Okay. And then we had a series of questions to ask ourselves in what that really meant. And then what's out there already. And these are all what seem like silly questions to ask ourselves, because clearly Airfix is Airfix. But actually, if you think about it, and that we've got to 3 bullet points really of what makes an Airfix kit, what Airfix product. In one, the first one is that it's a scale replica of something real. Brackets size life, you can argue that amongst yourselves, but it is also scale. Everything done ever has got a scale on it, even if it's the angel interceptor or whatever. It's a product that you have to clip off a frame of parts and you glue it together and you paint it. And those sort of 3 or 4 things, I think, defines every Airfix kit that we've ever done. But yes, there are things, if you go back to old Humbrol Airfix days and those fantasy wargaming figures and bits and pieces, there was some clip snapped together range of bits and pieces over the years as well, all sub-brands if you like. And we decided brick flowers is a very flooded market. Even 2 years ago, it was obvious. And Lego had just realised what golden egg that was for them. So we said, right, okay, it's Airfix. And ultimately, the whole survey was about plastic model making as well, not brick construction toys. And then it was off, well, okay, what flowers, what scale do we do? 1-to-1, simple, off we go. That was we didn't argue that, did we? What flowers can we do that then gives this product arguably a much, much longer life than most other things. The flowers that we've announced, a sunflower, as an example, yeah, we could put a sunflower together with anything, or we could sell it on its own. We don't have to just sell a Spitfire on its own or a double pack with the same Spitfire and try and find a different decal scheme, colour scheme with it all the time. It could just be as simple as it's the same plastic, we've just put different paints in. So instead of painting a yellow sunflower, you're painting an orange one or a red one or whatever else. So that was really important for our sort of product selection. And what we announced at Nuremberg last week, whenever this recording is going out, it is the result of some excellent work internally by the team. So quite a different thing to design, Matt.
Yeah, it was. We had a new designer join the team.
Mm-hmm.
She's done a brilliant job on. She was new to the brand, but it was her baby. And she was like building lots of different kits to get some different ideas of like how bits should go together. How could we make the assembly process more intuitive to someone that hasn't built a model kit before? There's lots of cool little features that's built into them. So all the petals have all got slight differences. So every time you build a flower, it's got to be slightly different to the one you built before. Yeah, there's some really nice little features in there. So as a product, we're really happy with it.
So did you have to send Clint out in the season to actually measure up and get the colours correct?
Clint stayed well away from this, although he's a little flower himself. No, we bought loads of flowers in. I think my wife was given a load of flowers. Can't remember why. Give of her work, and then they spent like a day in the house, and then I brought them into work one morning. So the guy just ripping petals off and taking loads of photos. I spent bits.
Can I ask why flowers? Who thought of flowers in the first place?
That was the result of this survey that basically told us.
Yeah, but who put flowers actually on it? Was that the people themselves put the flowers on there?
No, we come up with a list of 20 odd things, and
so that's what I'm saying. Where did the flowers come from? Which one of you thought flowers?
So we looking at what other successes from other brands, and knowing we keep a very close eye on what Lego are doing. They have far, far larger budgets than we do. They've got far greater teams than we do. Just keep an eye on that stuff. But it wasn't to say just by listing flowers because Lego.
Yeah, no, they do some, don't they? Yeah.
would be the right thing at all. And we just thought, let's put some stuff out there. That is through dealing with national retailers. We know that that's a big growth category for them as well. So everything pointed to you should list this as an option. We went into the whole thing really, really not knowing what the results was going to be. It would have been amazing if the results turned out that females 25 plus really want to build Spitfires. I mean, that would have told us that our marketing isn't in the right space. Do you know what I mean? The results didn't say that. There was a cohort of people, as I said at the beginning, that said that they already get involved in plastic modelling. And we still asked them all the other questions. And there was a lot of people saying, oh, I want more Formula One stuff or whatever. But they didn't know it was us. And some of that data we have, and we've obviously gone through it. But yeah, to answer your question, just look at what core, very popular growth category in our adjacent industries.
And was that popular across the board? Was it guys, kids, women, obviously? Was it a popular one across the board? Did you get that kind of information given you?
It was in general, but the biggest growth category, bearing in mind we're looking for an audience, a large enough audience that is going to grow our business in a space that we are simply not in right now, that was the top thing. So yes, but if the results were design more Spitfires, then we would have been amazed. We would have patted ourselves on the back more and gone, right, okay, off we go, boys. We know what we need even more of.
Let's get that Mark 14 sorted.
Yeah, exactly. But we really wasn't aiming at our existing market because we're fairly confident that we're already delivering a very good product range. So as I said, I keep on saying the word, but it's all about growth in depth in terms of revenue for the brand, but without making it commercial. The growth in terms of diversity of product range, it's not all military. The types of trade customers that we deal with as well. We're talking to the likes of John Lewis, M&S, all those guys. In the past, they may have taken some Spitfires, bits and pieces, but they're just not interested in it right now. So that when you open the door and you have those conversations with them, they go, okay, yeah, what have you got? We've got Mark 14 Spitfire, not a Mark 9, or this range of beautiful range of starter set cars and everything else. And they go, yeah, no, it doesn't really do it for us. So you go, okay, literally, you've got nothing else you can offer them. And it just closes that account for you straight away. And that hurts because you know that the product you have is amazing. Yeah. You're just not hitting the right buttons in terms of subject matter. So we didn't, off the back of the results and asking ourselves those questions, we didn't just go, right, up we go. We then, we had to recruit a designer essentially at the time, but we reached out to some of these large national customers and the buyers there and said, we're thinking about doing this. Would you be interested? How's that performing? So how's the Danish boys performing for you now? Blah, blah, blah. And everything said, yeah, this is what you go and do right now.
Well, botanicals full stop is so popular in the hobby sector, from whether it's about felt flowers that people make from scratch, or obviously you mentioned Lego, but in plastic, I think it's not a total surprise. I think it's absolutely, it's a brilliant step. So fair play to you guys for taking it on.
Yeah, it's like they're obviously talking to a lot of people last week about it, and everyone, I was more nervous about last Monday and announcing this than it was our main range the week or so before, in all honesty, because we all know that every modeler is a critic, which we love them for, but it is so different. But it is still a plastic kit, and that's amazing. Everyone's gone, oh, it's not like you've just gone off and trying to absolutely replicate what's out there. It is an Airfix model kit. It's just a flower.
A couple of points we've been really interested in when we've been building up test models or 3D printed models. One of our selling points, as opposed to a brick build or pre-decorated flowers, it's all about getting creative and blending the colours together and picking your own colour palette, which is a really nice aspect to it. It means that the end result is a lot more personal. But one of the things we haven't really considered that really seems to have gone down well here is the sort of social aspect to it. Now, we think of modelling as sitting in your attic or in your sheds with the radio on, putting a model together. But we've had some really successful coffee mornings here where we've set one of our meeting up as a little modelling workshop, and we've had people from all parts of the business come up to get involved and sit down, sit and chat and ask each other how to do things. And it's been really interesting to see that side of it develop. And whenever people coming up through the office, a lot of ladies are coming through and stopping to chat about the flowers we've got on the end of our bookshelves and things like that. So
they're all asking.
Got a really good feeling about it.
Yeah, they're all asking for samples. There's only been.
Can I just, I don't actually know, what flower is it? What have you done? What have you chose to do?
So we've got a sunflower, we've got a poppy, a chrysanthemum, which is like a large daisy thing. And then there's two roses. So what we've internally, because we're absolutely amateurs in this, a simple rose and a complex rose. So one got more petals, one hasn't, and it's quite more bunched up.
Do you mean a tea rose?
Possibly. You realise the rivets on rose are in the wrong place.
Oh, just wait, you'll get it. I can assure you.
It's two roses, where there's a poppy seed head, and a fern leaf.
Oh.
So they're the things we've announced.
And there's some other little bits hidden away on the frames as well for people to find.
Fantastic. I must admit, that sounds really, really interesting. And as I said, the amount of feedback we've had from partners of our modelers who said, my better half wants to get involved. I'm going to have to make more space at the bench. You need a bigger bench then, don't you? You need more modelling space. It's absolutely worked out perfectly.
We've already had that happen this week with one of our benchmates. His wife's gone out and bought herself a little bit of a thing, hasn't she, Mike? Surprised us all.
Yes, indeed. If she can't beat me, she's joined me instead.
That, for me, would just be like an excuse to open the floodgates, right? What else can I bring in? Yeah.
Anyway, okay, let's go on to our main list of subjects. But thank you for the insight on the flowers. I never, most of our benchmates probably thought this is a direction we would never actually start a conversation with you guys on. But
thank you.
All the power to your elbow. Brilliant subject. Really brilliant.
What I should say, just really quickly for you guys in the audience, is that we have been all the way through this project, being very conscious that this is an additional subject range to our core, what we call our core. So the development of this has not impacted the development time that we have had available to Spitfires, to 109s, to Ferret, to Stalwart, the Phantoms, and all that sort of stuff. So we have done this concurrently to all of that. Just in case anyone's thinking, they're going down that route and I'm not doing what I want them to do. No. We've made a point of this was always in addition to.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, in that case, we'll move on to boulders.
What are the 3 non-negotiable boxes kids must tick before it's chosen for the vintage classic range rather than being considered for a full modern retool?
I'd say the first one of the 3, that it molds properly. It's such a grey block where we push the plastic through it. That's number 1.
Well, essentially, we've got a massive bank of tooling that I'm constantly getting reminded about by the parts of the business to make the most of. It's a huge part of the Airfix sort of legacy of a lot of the sort of pre-Hornby era tooling. And it is nice to be able to go through a list of tools and build up little selections of kits that we would like to see again. There's a lot of kits that are unique subjects to Airfix, things that haven't really been explored by other manufacturers. They're kits that have got some absolutely fantastic artwork that goes with them, not necessarily by Roy Cross. There's a lot of other artists that did some fantastic artwork. It's nice to have the opportunity to show that off on the box front again.
Age, last time it was out, that's a big factor. It's rare that we find stuff that has been out for 30 odd years, but every time find more. We're like, how has no one in the last 12 years at Hornby ever gone, should we put that back in the range? And thankfully they haven't, or if they've tried, they've failed, and we then later find out why, and have to try and correct it. But thanks very much, previous people. But
yes,
so that's a fact. Yeah. That bomb bug, what are the chances of that bomb bug just never been released since 1975 or whatever it was? It was only ever run for like twice or something. The fact that we had everything but that clear part was just a little golden egg. Such a shame that when you retailed 11, 12 quid or whatever, I should have put that up to 50, I think. There's a number. Licensing is a big thing as well, Mike. There are certain aircraft in the vintage classic range that we know that we'd have to call in for. They've not been out for decades, but we've spoken to the holder of the IP, but we can't to minimum guarantees, so sort of the value that we guarantee the IP holder that we will generate for them through the sale of the product. Not giving, and that could be 50 grand, for example, just as an example. It could be 50 grand. Now, I know very quickly whether we would, of the money that we would make, whether we can afford 50 grand off the back of it, and it becomes a viable product. And sometimes they're very quick conversations, and we just go, no, sorry, thank you. And one of the benefits of being part of a much larger group in this organisation is that our Corgi or Sketch or Hornby counterparts, or even Pocker, could be having conversations with car manufacturers or even aircraft manufacturers via the Corgi brand that allows us to achieve some of these minimum guarantees. But the reality is we're just tagging along, and they're just a very small part of achieving that. But at least it gives us the option of putting it in the market and releasing it. So must be difficult. All lights have the job. Yeah.
So whose decision is it to actually release once you find out if you've got the IP and you've got the licenses in place, etc., etc.?
The three of us, ultimately. We have a number of sessions. We throw a lot of stuff up at the wall and put post-it notes on the table, and we sort of shuffle things around, and I sit there looking at sales history data of, it could be the same last time, it could be similar things. We have Gale makes open on a window, and we're looking at what other people have done more recently. We're looking whether in the great divorce between Airfix and Hellas, whether we think the tooling is in midst, or we think the Germans have got it, French/Germans, for those viewers that don't know that Hellas now owned by a German company. There's we just throw a lot of stuff down on the table. But we have to then naturally, we start taking things away, and we work out what key anniversaries are coming up that can help stick with product releases, that can help gift sets, so gift schemes as well. There's some first steps that we go to that really help shape it.
You know, it's online discussion.
Yeah.
It's certainty pop up again and again.
Yeah, this is achievable or not, with the resource, with the budgets, etc., that we have available to us. And if it isn't, then we cut it. Believe it or not, the range that we announced a couple of weeks ago is a cut version, which is a shame because we all want to release the stuff we put on the table, because there's all, in our own minds, there's very valid reasons for doing it. But that's fine if they just put onto the plan any years after, and that then helps start a conversation up, which we will be having in the next couple of months' time, and start building up that. So,
one of the things I always make sure I do when we go up to Telford in November is to have a good look round and see if there's any interest in kits that are old Airfix tooling, and get some inspiration of things to go and investigate. So maybe the idea to reissue the short Skyvan came from Telford show a couple of years ago, when someone did a fantastic diorama of a parachutist jumping out the back of one, which was in the pink Skyvan colour scheme. So with the vintage classics, we're stuck with the initial scheme matching the box art. So since I've been involved in leading this part of the development processes, I want to change the secondary and third schemes that are in the kit to put something new into the kit. So that's where the sort of the pink Skyvan idea came from. They involved approaching the owner of those aircraft and getting her permission. And she's been fantastically helpful and supportive in the project to get to reissue it. So there's lots of different ways that we decide what ones we want to reissue.
Yeah.
It is quite a daunting task, though.
I can imagine. Can I just ask, if you come across a moulding that's got a little bit of damage in it, or you really want to get it out, would you consider repairing it, or is there anything you can do?
Yeah, the factory in India have got a tool shop. They often have issues, like if we've got hot runner tools, they have to do a lot of work replacing the old electrical components in the mould and things like that. They try and clean it up the best they can. Sometimes they have to recut some of the runners to open up feed gates, things like that. So they do their best to try and... We've had issues in the past where some of the moulds haven't been stored very well in the sort of distant past, so they might have a bit of corrosion or issues like that, which they try and clean up the best they can.
Are they steel or are they stainless?
They're all tool steel, which does rust. So yeah, most of the tools are all packed. The last time they were used, they should be packed with grease, all sealed up. So if they haven't in the past, or they've been transported across the sea in a container, and they've got salty air inside and things like that, it doesn't do them any good.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, that leads on to my next question then. So when starting a new project, How is the baseline version chosen? Is it driven by historical significance, available data, visual appeal, or future flexibility?
It's a combination of all of those things. What the real no-go is how we can research it. The subjects that we've had on our want-to-do lists for a long time, but we just can't get the information together to do it justice. The subjects where we know where the information is, but it's being withheld from us. So that's probably the biggest factor in it.
We're always trying to get as much out of the tooling variants as well. There can be, if you decide to do, the Gannet might be a good example. If we decided to do the AEW version that we didn't do, then there isn't any scope. If you're going to do that mold, all the colour schemes are the same, and there's no scope to do anything other than the AEW version. So we chose that AS version, which then allowed a couple of decent colour schemes, Raw Navy plus export ones, which you're seeing from us, which are, okay, you could argue still largely in the same colour. Indonesian, there's Australian in there, there's quite a mix. And we've got a COD version, which is completely different. So by choosing that from the outset, gave us two options, really.
Yeah, but those export schemes are invaluable. We've got distributors in different parts of the world that are constantly asking for subjects that are relevant to their markets. So our distributor down in Australia is clamouring to get hold of the Gannet with the Australian schemes on it.
So the TR9, 40 TR9 of the year, we set off that project by wanting to do the TR9 in 48 scale. That was the aim. The assumption was that we might be able to do the Mark 9 as a result, but we wasn't sure, and we wasn't prepared to compromise the TR9 to get the Mark 9 out of it. As it happened, as we were developing it and doing the research for that project, it became very apparent that actually we've just a little bit more tooling, and if by laying these parts out in a different way, and both in terms of the tooling, but also the way that the team slice and dice it all up. The secondary project is a product from that is actually the single seat Mark 9. A lot of people saying, well, why have we done a Mark 9 48 scale? There's already one out there. Yeah. Actually, that's a byproduct of what we really wanted to set out to achieve. So it's always looking at that. There are, of course, a lot of kits that we've done where the Swift, for example, with 72nd scale, there are no variants of that. And they were only really in one colour with different serial numbers. But it was obviously an important subject matter at the time. The team decided to plug that gap and do it. So, they're always looking. There's something that signed off yesterday, which I can't tell you about. And even the initial project proposal for that has got 2 variants that we aimed to do. But after the research for it, which you've done on this, actually there's 4 or 5, and maybe even a 6 that we could do. So we need to ask the business for a little bit more money on the tooling, but it gives us a 6-8 year roadmap of just this one aircraft, which is amazing. And it's quite rare that you find something like that has that various, which is why I know him. You know what I mean? Don't say it. There's so many things going on. Like, what's he talking about? It's very rare that we find a subject matter that gives us that longevity of different marks. Normally, after a third release of new parts, you'll rest it for a while, then you go back around with new decalogues. That's normally what you come to see from us. So to have a subject matter that will give us best part of 8 years of just new parts all the time is quite special. One of the reasons why we chose it, for.
So will the designer come up with the variants that you're looking at for the future and design them at the same time, rather than a designer having to come back and actually either look for the CAD or accept to find out the variances and how you actually came up with the original tooling, and basically just keep it on the shelf?
No, you obviously you're going to want to do the tooling right at the beginning, and that's it. So you look at the options possible, the different variations of the aircraft. Has it got major differences on the larger pieces of plastic? That's going to possibly shut down travelling down that route of doing that version. Or you might have a chat with Matt, for example, and say, if we put this bit here on, we could go all the way down this version here, do loads of such and such series. And he's like, we could put like a plug-in here or something. And that just researching what changes on the aircraft over time. And there's quite a lot of options open to us, but sometimes there isn't. And you just have to draw the line,
Yeah.
So obviously we'd like to get as much traffic out of the tooling as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Scheme-wise, offering it, making it attractive to foreign customers as well. It has its benefits.
The Seeking's a prime example of that, isn't it? We've just announced the third version of that tooling, and every single version is different. Naturally, people just bolted random things on helicopters because they care less about aerodynamics, which, by the way, made it naturally not have to research, because every Seeking you go and look at, something's bolted in a different place, but or been filled in or whatever else. So that took a lot of time. The 24 scale Mark 9 Spitfire, the guys, memory serves correctly, the guys that took on that project sadly aren't working for us anymore, but they always planned to try and do the Mark 8 after, but the tooling was never done at the same time, and the actual design of the Mark 8 parts weren't done at the same time. So they had a rough idea of what they would need to do and how they would need to lay the Mark 9 tooling out in order to allow us to easily go off and do the Mark 8 later, but it actually wasn't done. When we got to designing the Mark 8, we realized that there was a few bumps in the road that, in hindsight, we would have laid the tooling out differently. We wouldn't have put whole wings on certain toolings or whatever else, which ultimately resulted, if you buy the Mark 8, buy Mark 9 and a Mark 8, you spot the difference. There's large pieces of plastic in there, which we don't like doing the second version. But that was a lesson learned. Not to say it was the wrong way around doing it. It's just that if you've got the time when you're working on the main project to then, I'm going to say, bash out all of the other versions, because it's fresh in your mind, the research is fresh. That's most probably the best time to do it.
Most of the time it would all be done at the same time. There are a few projects where we know by doing, say, a new fuselage and a new canopy, we can get a whole new release out of it. So the kit has been designed in that way and the tooling set up in that way, but we know that's going to be a much longer term thing, because we want to see how the first version does before we commit more money into that set of tools. So yeah, there's different ways of looking at it depending on the commercial reasons behind why we've chosen what versions we need.
So sometimes we set off on a project thinking, well, we need to get PR9 out of this. And we're so far through the project, we we can't. This doesn't work now for us. So we either have to go and do the Mark 9, just as an example, and any thereof, or we go, the PR9 is the most important thing here, let's not compromise on anything else. And we just make our bed and get on with it, really. So you set off thinking you can do a load of things, and then the more and more you delve into research-wise, this is more your area, the more obvious that it's not what the originally intended to be.
Cool. Okay then, moving on.
As always, a very long answer to your question. I'm sorry, Brownie.
Not a problem in the slightest. The more detail, the better. Honest.
Guys, for 2026 releases, I know obviously you covered it in parts already, but the releases that feature like new parts, the schemes, or scheme options, should I say, on the existing tooling, how do you ensure that a seamless fit between the 21st century CAD design parts and I guess like that 20th century physical molds that you talked so nicely about a moment ago?
There isn't actually, I think, that we're trying to put new tooling against what we would call vintage classic. I think that's what you've just said there, Shane.
It's like, I guess we're more around the schemes as well, really. It's like fitting, I mean, you covered it with the Skyvan a little bit there anyway, but fitting the new schemes around those old toolings, or if you're going to add, or if there's appetite to add more stuff into it.
Essentially, we're governed by what the old tooling details and versions and options wise, what you've got. Sometimes, like with the Skyvan, we might redesign some kind of maths thing a bit more. Sometimes you really want to do a scheme, but it's got bits that aren't in the kit. So it's either got two different propeller blades that I think Matt has designed up, and we're going to offer as a free download for guys to 3D print if they want.
The subjects we've done, like say the one bug that we mentioned earlier, we didn't have the clear mold for that. We only had the grey parts. What I actually did for that is have the body shell moldings 3D scanned, really using like a specialist scanner that's meant for small items. Often the sort of stuff that jewelers use to scanning prototypes of jewelry, things like that. So in the same way that we would, similar to how we were scanning a full-size car or aircraft, good physical parts scanned in. I was able to pull that into our CAD software and then reverse engineer the windows so that they were custom designed to fit in the existing body shell. And then it was just a process of 3D printing them, testing the fit, adjusting it so that it could be the best fit that it could. And then that's the data that we sent to the tool makers to retool the clip parts. So there are ways of adding new bits to older models.
It's amazing that you can reverse engineer stuff, and that's a pretty cool way of looking at things as well.
Yeah, it's also really surprising because it shows up all of the issues like where parts aren't as symmetrical as they should be on the, because it was a lot of handmade patterns that were pantographed across. And where we've done some of the new bits for aircraft glazing, you're having to design each window individually rather than mirroring stuff across as you would on a sort of a modern CAD design. So yeah, it's quite interesting sort of getting that deep into the sort of the engineering of the older kits.
It's really cool. Nice insight like that. Appreciate that.
Okay, this actually jumps into a question Mark's got. Is there actually a process for digitising the old vintage classic moulds via 3D scanning, something like that, that preserves the design, even if the physical steel eventually degrades?
We could use the 3D scanning process that we would use to scan parts in. Not something that we're looking at the moment. Most of our molds are on another continent, but it is certainly something that for some of the more important molds, we should probably think about preserving the data that is within those molds.
Is there only one set? Is there only ever one set of molds?
Sometimes tools will have multiple runs of stuff though. I think it's some of our starter sets, like every rotation, what I call every cycle of a tool, you'll pop out 2 kits instead of one. Like clear tools sometimes have that as well. So if one half of that tool was to fail badly, then at least it would double your cost because you'd be running a large tool but only using half of it. That is always an option. I guess my thought of 3D scanning something old just in case something happens with the tool is actually one of the most expensive parts of developing a new kit is that tool. So it's, for example, our Lancaster tool phone, we've got pretty important products in our range, something that would never not be in our range in one version or another. Okay, that's an Hornby era CAD. We could very easily just go, here's the CAD, go off and make a new tool. Or would we then go, we can make this better? And that's most probably what we would do, because a couple more weeks or a month or whatever in design time finish that CAD, which will be 10 odd years old now, is still going to cost you the same amount of tooling when you have to go and cut that. So, and that's a Hornby era tooling. He takes something back, like a vintage plastic, like that Skyvan, as an example, making sure that I don't say anything that I shouldn't. If we were that desperate to lift that Skyvan and it broke, what would we do? Would we retool something based on an old Skyvan, or would we give it the love and attention that it deserves, which is completely CAD up something new, which would then be a market leading version of that aircraft, but the cost of the tooling would ultimately still be the same.
It might be, but yeah, the cost would weigh out from what you're going to make. It would outweigh what you're going to pull back on it, I would have thought.
Yeah, and you'd sell more because you would advertise it as a brand new tool and a brand new design, as some get that tool brand new. You might get other versions out of it because you'd be limited of what the existing tool. Yeah, so I think the likelihood is we would take the opportunity to especially design
fresh look at it.
Yeah. Well, I like your thinking. Something that might work there would be all the figures, actually. There's got a range of figures it has.
Is that the historical figures, like the Napoleon and Henry VIII and all that kind of stuff?
I'm more thinking the 32nd scale.
Oh, the smaller stuff.
Drama stuff that we have that just live in the range all year, really, in the 76 scale stuff. What would we do if one of those failed? You would mostly just go and get some new digital sculpts made. And if we felt that commercially it was viable to go and do so. I guess it depends on who broke the tooling and whether we're paying for it or not. So
you still do the multi-pose, the 32nd scale stuff?
We've still got the tooling. It's not in the range at the moment.
Because I think there's only you guys did the 32nd scale, wasn't there?
Yeah, last time that was in the range was just before I came back. So 22. And we looked at the sales data because every now and then someone will say, can you re-release it? And I looked at sales data and it just wasn't that impressive. So one way to improve that but you do eventually put it in the market, is give it more time out of the market. I know it's not what people want to hear that really want those kits, but that's the reality of it. So you build up more demand.
Okay, the one thing that I'd like to ask on the back of and try and bring a line under the vintage range is there's been urban myths about some of the tooling disappearing or has either been scrapped or no longer exists. Is there any truth to the rumours that the Sea Vixen, the 48th, has gone?
We will neither confirm or deny any rumours of tooling being in our possession or not being in our possession, unfortunately, Brownie. There's certainly a few things. We're not entirely sure why they were last left. We have for several years now wanted to fit back in the range. Sometimes they've just appeared. So, yeah, and I guess the reason for keeping those cards close to our chests really is that could be the tooling is just around the corner, which was just mislabeled or something like that, and we wouldn't want a competitor to think that the door was open to go and do it. That's why we're always happy for people to ask us the question, but the three of us here will most probably not connect to where the tooling is.
Fair enough. Okay. We'll chop that out so it doesn't actually answer that question. So more than happy.
We get asked at every model show. You and us probably asked at Bolton, where is that? You know, before we brought the bomb bug back, everyone just, the tooling's lost the bomb bug. And all of a sudden, bang, there we go, bomb bug. And how good was that when we announced it that year? Everyone just went mental for the bomb bug.
Yeah.
So this is another reason why we keep stuff back.
Coming up to date, Nevs.
Sure. So, chaps, I just wanted to touch on the 2026 range and specifically how you're marking significant anniversaries. So, obviously, you've got the box set about the Swedish Air Force's centenary, and you're also looking at re-releasing kits for the 85th anniversary of Pearl Harbor and what happened there. How far in advance do you begin mapping these historical milestones into your product roadmap?
Or now for next year, actually these historical milestones you can see quite a long way out. So that helped. But yeah, we are a couple of months away really from the first iterations of the 2027 range. And as I said earlier, part of that will certainly be looking at a number of types of anniversaries. They don't have to necessarily be battles or anniversaries of air forces. It could be the first flight of a certain aircraft, and something substantial like that could mean that we bolt forward the new tooling or something. So yeah, it's a cheat sheet to knowing what to do next.
Yeah, it's kind of like a rolling 10-year list of the Battle of Britain and Bismarck, Pearl Harbor,
D-Day,
all the events. And that kind of gives you your main sort of popular historical things. And as time goes on, there'll be more things added onto that list. But one of the things we've got in the range next year is the first Legends kits. And what we wanted to do that was to tell different stories that wouldn't necessarily fit into a sort of a strict anniversary type marketing campaign, but stories that are a bit more, they're really interesting stories to tell, but we didn't previously have a vehicle to tell that story. So certainly, like Douglas Barter is the first one, but we've got a big list of different things that we want to explore, different subject matter we can combine together, just so we've got some new things that we haven't touched on before.
But in terms of those key dates, it's not just Second World War. Obviously, there's some important First World War anniversary dates. It always seems that nothing really happened in the Airfix range between Waterloo and then the First World War. The Battle of Waterloo is their dates are set on our spreadsheet that we keep an eye on as well. And we wouldn't expect as much national media coverage than 150 years or 200 years or whatever of Waterloo as we would with Battle of Britain or D-Day anniversary that you've seen over the last 12 months or so. That may play a factor, but if there's a key anniversary, it's the Battle of Waterloo coming up, and we have the scope to put product in for it, then that's when you see all the 76 scale stuff go back in. I think there was a load of the 32nd scale stuff that we did at the time as well. That stuff's not been out for a long, long time. Just keeping an eye on those dates, keeping in mind national media coverage is always an important part.
Okay, and when Matt said about the Legends for next year, he's obviously only about 26, not 27.
Yeah, he didn't give anything away.
Just checking.
We constantly live in a year ahead, this one.
I think it's interesting as well that you're focusing the branding around the 85th anniversary. So much, it's all right looking at the media and what the media is doing, but so much of how brands do things is by leading the way and actually generating the interest by creating the product. And 85th anniversary, obviously you've got Pearl Harbor coming up this year, which is great, but just thinking next year, you've got Battle of Midway, you've got all of the European things from 1942. There's just so much opportunity there.
Yeah, great. And as long as we've got the tooling, that allows us to exploit those key anniversaries and tag along to any sort of larger press and bits and pieces, that's really key. And that's why you see a lot of anniversary products, gift sets, because if the D-Day anniversary massively that we saw was that last year or the year before? Yeah, was far greater than the 85th anniversary we saw back in Britain last year. Did much really happen for that? No, not really. Not in comparison to that D-Day anniversary where there was Hertz going over to France and a bigger ship drop feather or whatever else. That was huge. It felt like every town in the country had some sort of parade on or something like that. I was on holiday down in Dorset at the time. That was amazing because so much had happened down there. You don't see that with everything. Are we going to see that level of events or coverage with Pearl Harbor this year? We're seeing the Bismarck. No, we're not. But it's a good excuse.
And use that excuse because naval modelers like myself and boulders to an extent, we're just going to buy into it with our wallets.
Okay. Moving on then, boulders.
Right, there's been some notable resurgence in 72nd scale for the 2026 releases, notably being the Canberra and the JU52. What technical or manufacturing advantages does 72nd scale offer your design team over the increasingly popular 48 and larger scales?
We don't like 72nd scale, do we? We're constantly getting told. Every year we announce product, we're constantly being told why are we ignoring 72nd scale modelers. And we look at ourselves and go, hang on a minute, we've done all of this. But I think 72nd scale modelers just hate 48 scale modelers that much. Anyway, I'll let Matt answer.
32nd scale maybe. Well, not 48.
Matt, I'll answer that question.
That's a tricky one, that one. Basically, as you go up with games, the sort of each step is exponentially more involved than the last one. But for the game scale, you put in sort of individual switches and in the cockpit and covering the surface of the aircraft with a lot more different types of surface detail. But then at the smaller scales, they tend to be bigger subjects. So like the JU52 is a big multi-engine aircraft, so there's a lot more of it to model. So there's different challenges with each scale. With the 72nd scale, you're fighting the limitation how thin you can mold things reliably. That's a much bigger issue. You're always trying to disguise how thick parts are, whereas at 48 scale and 24 scale, whereas the minimum wall thickness isn't as much of an issue. Only the JU52 has had some big technical challenges to faithfully represent the corrugated skin, not just in the CAD, because it's really pushing the CAD software to its limit. Certainly the designer who did that, we had to put a lot more memory in his computer, things like that, to cope with it. But he's also given us massive headaches when we've been doing the decal artwork, because of the way the decal artwork is drawn on top of drawings that are generated from the CAD of the kit. Basically, because of the way that the surfaces of the model are constructed, it just gives you hundreds and hundreds of parallel lines where it renders all of the corrugation. So giving it a massive headache.
A bit of a see of that. You couldn't see the plane through the lines, could you?
Imagine if you're looking at a port side view profile and you look at the underside of the wing, you got all these hundreds of lines. They're all stacking on top of each other, no space in between. So it just looks like a black glob. You can't see any markings or anything, so I've had to redraw the wing and everything.
And even when we've been working with our artists to do the box art, he's gone back and sort of work out workflows of how to render the corrugated skin, because he's given his rendering software an absolute nightmare, sort of mapping all the textures on it and things like that. So he's had to work out new ways of doing things that he said. But yeah, it's been a massive technical challenge actually on JU52.
So you picked an easy one then?
Yeah, I think
it's amazing.
Yeah, it was a project.
It looks beautiful. It really does. It looks amazing.
It was a project that we wanted to do for a very long time, and it was only more recently we felt that the computers and the CAD software had got powerful enough to actually be able to handle the amount of detail on that model.
That's an example at JU52 just is, there are JU52s in the market already. I think there's a couple out there that, and some others that are Reeboks, the tooling that is available. But we felt so strongly that we could be the market leader with that tool, and not just for 1 year, for many years to come. And if you've seen the build model, the Bolton show the other week, and the boys are taking it down to the Bovington Southwest Model Show this weekend, you truly appreciate, actually, this is market leading 72nd scale territory. And I'd be amazed if one of our competitors come along and goes and say, oh, we can do this better. And we will say that on certain things, but that JU52 is incredible.
Yeah. Did I read that you're actually doing something different in the way that you're moulding the canopy for the J52?
We said it's slide moulded, which isn't new, but
Yeah, so basically, rather than moulding the canopy as 3 pieces that you'd have to try and glue together, it's moulded in 1 piece, but the mould, and it's similar to how we do like a car body shell or something like that. There's 2 sections on the mould that actually move independently so that you can mould the detail on the side windows without it being all blurry, where the part has to be extracted from the mould.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Okay. So other than Zint's headache for that, we'll move on with Shane.
He loved it. I thought you were tolerant it in yesterday, but he's loving it.
It's good and special. Trust
me. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like you guys touched upon diversity within the range, and we've seen a strong push back into the 135th scale arm, like the Saracen, and the 176 figures. Is the 2026 strategy intentionally diversifying Airfix away from being the airplane company?
No, not at all. We actually make a bit of a rod for our own backs with this, because we don't like putting products in the range that sit on their own. It's feel sorry for them. They're sitting there a bit lonely. So we always like to build up these little mini ranges of things, help support each other's sales and bits and pieces. But, every year they generate awareness for what was there before and stuff. And you mentioned the Saracen, wasn't it? They all begin with an S. I had to be so careful. That ferret suggestion, I was down at Bovington Tank with him, speaking to a guy down there, and he just said, you know what you need to do? And I was like, oh, here we go. I stand here and nod politely. And he said, 35th scale, ferret, armoured car. No one has ever done one in plastic injection. And I love ferret armoured cars. And I was like, really? You went, yeah, no one has ever done one in plastic injection moulded before. There's a resin kit, which you all know who did that. And I was like, oh. And I was sort of said, thanks very much, blah, blah, blah. And my team, our researcher, and said, this has just been suggested. You just do a little digging. Is it true? And it came back and said, yep, never been done before. Right, okay, that feels like something that we should jump on pretty quick. And that I had it. Ethan, one of my, he's not a new designer now, but Ethan was just starting the business, and we like to give new designers a block to design first instead of a plane. And so that ferret was as close to a block as we could get. And so that was his first kit, wasn't it? And so, yeah, a product suggestion, even though we might take it on board and it will get added to the list, it's very rare that within a space of a month or two that someone's actually working and all the stars aligned to that. That then set us off on a path of what else in 35th scale, British Cold War armour-ish era hasn't been done in plastic injection moulding. And yeah, that sort of set us off on a bit of a path, really. And when we announced the ferret, everyone went crazy for it. And we're like, right, okay, we've made the right decision here. Like, let's keep on where can we take this? And there's a list as long as your arm there, really, which we'd love to do. 2 of every year, but the reality is we can't. And our biggest category for us is aircraft, as you said. So we have to make sure that there's a balanced approach with everything. Yeah. And doing a ferret or a Thor war takes away from doing a 45th scale Spitfire or something that isn't a Spitfire, for example. So yeah, we wasn't going to leave the ferret on its own.
Okay. Moving on then.
So my next question is about my pet love, which is obviously named. We haven't seen many releases other than the RNLI launches from Airfix recently that are waterborne. Is this down to market factors, or is there just no real appetite outside of the enthusiasts for naval subjects?
It's a as blunt as I can, we'll sell more of something else, sadly, for those naval lovers out there. And amongst it, with wearing our commercial hats, which we absolutely have to, then because there might be subjects out there that we really want to do, but ultimately we know that commercially it's not a viable thing for us. Sometimes there isn't a viable for the first year or two, but there's a much, much longer tail. If we don't get okay strategically, then yes, it's not going to pay back or whatever in our sort of targeted time frame, but it will live in the range for much, much longer. So that's why the last time we really did naval stuff was outside of the lifeboat, and then the little ships really was the Lusty and the military submarine, and I think although the submarine has made an appearance back into the round, but looking at the sales numbers every day like I do, because I'm a bit boring like that, but
you said it.
They never really, well, it all matters, but every time we release that, yes, we sell our MOQ or whatever. It doesn't really put up any trees. If one year we released the Type 45 again, which, by the way, we did bring some stock back from America the other month, so there was some on our website, and all of a sudden it goes absolute great guns, then that would trigger conversations internally of, right, okay, what should we go and do next? Clearly there's a badge market out there again for naval stuff. Should we go and do Type 42 or whatever else? And we can have those discussions knowing that there is a more sound commercial plan behind it. I know that's not what I want to hear. Well, we can't do things just enough. We have to make sure that they are self-funding, and otherwise we end up in a whole lot of trouble.
One of the issues we've got with ship modelling was the 1 to 350th hour has become very popular, but modern ships are very big and that translates into big, expensive moulds. From our point of view, if we've got a designer sat there for however many months, and in that big investment in tooling, we could have someone sat designing a 109, 24 scale 109. We're going to sell, that's for sure, Friday. That's going to pay its money back very quickly. Yeah, there's always a lot of commercial reasoning behind it.
It's the cheap thing, isn't it? Everyone asks us for the new carriers.
Yeah, quite in terms of tooling investment, like it's probably more than a 24 scale 5 plate. Was the 5 molds.
You're not going to sell many of those in Germany.
No, but you did put Telford into a frenzy a few years ago when you had what a 350 built, and it was on your table, and everybody was going nuts about it.
Yeah, Daryl, God bless him. Daryl, that was his little idea there.
Dave Coventry or that.
Yeah, we've still got that. We've still got that in a box in our storeroom, and every now and then I'll walk past, I'll bring it up to the office, we get it out of the box, and we look at it and go, that's bloody big, isn't it? And we pack it back up and it goes and sits in the storeroom again. We'd have to do it. It's a prime example of something you'd love to go and do, but it's always in the news, rightly or wrongly. We've got CAD design for F-35Bs because we've done the starter set, so that we can do little miniature ones of those easy enough. A 109 as an example in 24 scale, or a Queen Elizabeth class carrier. It's not really a competition, I'm afraid, Jane.
Well, I knew that question, chaps, was always going to come across as a critique, but you've obviously put your money's where your mouth is, because this year there's a number of ship kits being re-released, and personally I'm chuffed to see the KJV, the Rodney, the Prince Eugen Shah Hus coming back now. Yes, they're in 600th scale, which is a bit niche now out there on the shipbuilders market, but for someone like me, I'm going to buy them, not because I want to do them as 600th scale ships in their own right, but as someone who does the 700th line, there's just so much scratch building potential there for anyone interested in the history of what would the successors to the Bismarck have looked like, the successors to the King George V. They're essentially, they use the same motifs and just scale them up.
Yeah.
So there is so much opportunity there in that range for just those scratch builders that want to build something unique, and I'm going to be picking one of each of those up for that reason.
That's great. I've been building a lot of those kits in my spare time to make sure the mouldings are all okay. And certainly some of them are really nice models in their own right. The Prince Eugen is a beautiful kit. I really enjoyed putting that one together. There's a lot of detail on it.
Yeah.
And they all go really nicely together. And it feel where we've got the whole range coming out, it's really interesting to see all the differences between the ships. They've got a HMS Nelson, which is the big old sort of ungainly looking thing, against the German ships, which you've got beautiful streamlined bows on them, things like that. It's a nice little range that people can connect all of them.
For sure, definitely.
That was every year since I've been back when running the sort of ranging outfits. Every year we do it, and everyone's like, "No new ships," and or they're not even re-releasing that one. Bring Nelson back or whatever, and you're like, "No, yeah, but just bringing HMS Nelson back on its own doesn't really feel right at all." And we recognise that there's a couple of people out there that want it. But yeah, 85th anniversary of a big battle, hang on a minute, this is the year that we need to go great guns on bringing anything got anywhere near that sort of activity. We've put it in the range. Yeah, the amount of ships we're putting into the range this year does anything we've done before. Big anniversary release. If we're not going to do it this year, when are we going to do it? There you go, bang. And we'll see how they sell. The chances are they come out of the range in a couple of years' time. And that's fine, because like so after James, you would have gone off and hopefully buy more than one, please. Then you tick that box. Yeah.
Well, wear two hats now, guys. Anyway, I'm not only a modeler, but a model seller. So it's quite likely that I will buy it. Especially if you slap on an 85th anniversary of Bismarck onto the box, that's just going to make me buy them even quicker.
I didn't even know there was a Nelson.
Well, 600, yeah. Oh, well, there you go. Right then, going back to something Matt said earlier about the 124th brings us on to my next question from Mark.
Okay, the big stuff now. With the Grumman Hellcat returning and the release of the 109 in 124, what are the specific engineering hurdles of producing such massive kits compared to a standard range?
It's the sheer amount of time and effort that has to go into them. The design time on the 109 was well over a year. Designer tied up full-time just working on one project. You're talking over 400 parts that have to be individually designed and engineered to all work together. And then when you get to the other end of the project, when you're doing all the art, that have to go into a huge amount more detail as well. On the 109, printed all of the stencils that go on the engine and all the individual dials for the instrument panel and the placards that go inside the cockpit. And all the word on those little stencils has to be retouched and the fonts have to be correct. And it's just a massive amount. It's a much higher level of detail than the Himmler smaller scales. And all that detail has to be retouched. So yeah, it's mainly the time aspect of it. Yeah. So say the aircraft's got like a particular aerial. That aerial on the exterior might mean you need a box in the pilot operates. It has to be researched. That's an extra part because of the scale, you'll be able to see these parts, and that part might have a decal on it. And it just grows and grows the bigger the scans. And then obviously there's the instructions to do as well, to try and explain to someone how to put all these parts together. So yeah, that's the main challenge. It's just the amount of the sheer time and amount of research that you have to put into these projects. Yeah, and so that's why they're only we'd love to do a new one every year. They're sort of multi-year projects, and we just have to balance the capacity that we've got in the team.
When you've got all your bits on drawing on card, or you've popped them in plastic, you've turned them into plastic, do you actually get like an expert, a guy who works on these things to just check stuff over, like an aircraft engineer who would actually work on a 109?
Couldn't find any, Alex.
But there must be people from the Battle of Britain or whatever. Somebody who would actually know whether, yep, that's good, that's not good, or redo that again, or have another look at that?
Well, I mean, World War II stuff, they're getting a bit thin on the ground.
Well, not 109s, I would have thought, really.
Well, they're quite hard.
We do often involve external sort of subject experts.
Don't forget, you've got all those experts out here,
Yeah, but certainly for 109, we worked with the guys over at the Messerschmitt Foundation over in Manching. They've got a couple of airworthy 109s.
That was hilarious. I've just got to cut across you there, Matt, because that was hilarious at Telford. There was a German guy that come up to me at Telford and said, "You've got your 109 wrong." Straight away, you're like, "Oh, okay." I don't know. I'm just going by what the amazing hard work that these guys feel. And I was like, "Oh, God, okay, this isn't. Have we?" possible. Unlikely, but possible. And you got it wrong. You didn't use these drawings. You should have used these drawings. You should have contacted me. And I was like, okay, what can I ask? Why do you think we've got it wrong? And he said, well, I work at the Luftwaffe, not Luftwaffe, Messerschmitt Foundation. Yeah, Lufthansa, that was it. Same thing. No, it's not. And over in Germany, we've got all of these. And that's where we went. And they're the drawings we used. And I quickly had a chat with Matt, and this German bloke come back, and I was just like, no, that's where we went. And we spoke to this person, we called over this one, there was an engine out of an airframe, we scanned that, we did that. And he went, oh, it's perfect then. Literally, that was it. We never had to show him anymore. That was it. There's a lot of work that goes into it. Yeah, there's so much work that goes into this. I remember actually just harping back to my old days here. There's the 48 going to see, what's that in the top cabin? It's Vixen, Sea Vixen. And we did the pretty prototype. And we then found out before we went to tooling that tail booms were too short. And so thankfully we found out, and we were able to change CAD before we wasted a lot of very expensive metal. And we said, well, how did that happen? Well, we used the book, the go-to book for all Sea Vixen lovers. We'd use that as our reference. It was wrong. So we aren't just buying reference books that are deemed to be the market leader for all things Sea Vixen or 109 or whatever. We're having to check all of that reference material, which is incredible. The amount of times we should put that on social media or whatever else. We just actually let get on. So yeah,
it's a shame. It's a shame a few other manufacturers don't do the same. To be honest with you.
We don't always get it right. 72nd scale Mosquito a couple of years ago when we announced that version, and I can't remember what the original one was. And we said, right, okay, brand new tool, 72nd scale version. And we scanned the one up at RAF Costard Museum. And little did we know at the time, despite the plaque at the front of it saying was no whatever mark, been bodged up and there were different bits on it and everything else. We just didn't pick it up. We didn't pick it up at all until the plastic got past it. So
you have to be so careful with a lot of just aircraft because to understand their history, you can look at something and you've got a little bracket on the side of it, and you've got to question everything that might have been added.
I was going to say, I suppose that's question number one, isn't it? Is it original?
Yeah, at some point it might have been used as you can have frames that have been used as like battle damage repair airframes that have got lots of extra little panel lines and things all over them.
Yeah, the Blenheim's a bit like that, isn't it? Like the Mark 1 Blenheim at Arco. Because I remember speaking to Smudge about it, and he was saying about a little window on the front canopy. And I think there is a massive difference between, I think we discussed it on a previous episode anyway, between a restored flying aircraft and something that would have been flying during the battles.
Yeah, I mean the Blenheim at Duxford is a Bolingbroke with a Mark 1 nose grafted onto it. If you look at the shape of the engine nacelles, they're completely different to what a wartime Blenheim would have looked like.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you compare it to our 48 scale model, there's some big differences there. If you spent 15 years as a designer before I've really changed roles, but you've really got to question it. If for a preserved aircraft, you've got to question everything and really understand what you're looking at. You can't really, just because it's been restored and such as it's been restored by such and such who's really good, you can't just take their word for it, but they've got it wrong. Because if you release it, it's wrong, you're going to get all of the stick. You just have to do your homework. And don't.
Yeah. So you're looking for a conserved aircraft rather than a preserved aircraft. So something that's in its original state.
Well, it gives you the opportunity to, the overall thing might be correct, but it's detailing and things like that you have to really check and work out whether it's actually correct.
The lifetime, I mentioned the Sea-King, that's what that's going Sea-Kings that we did. Yeah, that's fairly ish. Still is aircraft even during the Second World War, still is aircraft left the factories and was assigned squadrons, whatever. That if something needed to happen to it, it didn't go back to a factory to have something strapped onto it. It was just done in a field. And so we have to be really, really careful that we're trying to replicate. Sometimes we're trying to replicate the particular serial number of something during that particular time in its life, because these things change. It's ultimately the utility thing, isn't it? So, bolting different things on them.
What was the Saracen?
you try finding some photographs of the Saracen without a bit of mesh bolted onto it or a bit of perspex to stop like something in Northern Ireland being thrown. They're all custom. It's really difficult. It's the most amount of time I've spent looking for reference material for schemes is because they're all totally different. And to find someone that looks as standard as we're going to do it out of the factory was really hard.
But we do talk to experts, but we don't just rely on one source.
Yeah. I mean, you cannot ever hope to learn as much as someone who has researched the same aircraft for their whole life. They're going to know things that we'll never have the opportunity to learn in like maybe the 2 or 3 months we're looking at it, you know? So I'll always try and bring in someone. I'll look at the forums and see who people are asking questions about a certain aircraft, same names are giving really good answers. Oh, contact them. It's always better to ask someone.
Yeah.
That's right, rather than think, oh yeah, I can do that. Do it on my own, and then it might be wrong.
Yeah.
If you look at the Messerschmitt 109 period hand, they've all got the wrong length in them because they measured one that had a prototype spinner on it and kept the same length throughout the manuals. Yeah, you could say, oh, I got this out of a period manual, but that's why when you check it against scans, it's kind of a 3D scan.
And there's we had a whole set of handbooks, the F109 handbooks, and basically divided into lots of different sections. So there'll be a handbook for engine maintenance, a handbook for the wing, a handbook for the tail. For the 109G, the handbook for the undercarriage actually goes into detail about the outer undercarriage doors, which is why they squared off the wheelbase so they could put a hinge across. Well, there's always beautiful drawing, an extra door on the undercarriage that was never ever put into production. So you're even stuff like that you have to take with a pinch of salt sometimes.
Was you ever going to think of doing the textured skin? Was there ever a thought on the 109?
Yes, we did think about it, but when you look at a real 109, they don't really have that same effect. They're very smooth. Certainly looking at the ones in museums and aircraft or fly, I don't know if it's because they're smaller, stiffer airframe. They don't really have that sort of oil canning effect in the skin. So to put it on the model, it just wouldn't have looked right.
Makes sense. Okay. Very conscious of the time, gents, and thank you very much. But one final question. With the rise in 3D printed parts and full 3D printed kits impacting traditional kit manufacturers, we've seen the likes of Edward releasing their hybrid series recently and Armour including details made in this way. Is it something that on the back of your Spitfire with the beer tanks or the beer kegs under the wing, you've actually looked to do on a more regular basis? Or is it just going to be on the occasional one-off?
We are looking. There's a couple of questions in there. So I don't believe that 3D printing will ever take over from plastic injection molded kits. They're very different things. And if you want a fast starter set randomly from middle aisle of Aldi or Lidl or Hobbycraft, then that is a very different proposition to saying to little Jimmy, oh, you've got a 3D printer at home. You fancy printing this off and then building it. With two very different worlds. But I do believe, and we believe, we do often talk about this, that the use of 3D printing enables another string to the model world bow, if you like. So this year, the club kit this year, in order to replicate the digging in the kit with the drop tank included on the cub area, there's a 3D file that you can go on there and go and grab, and then you can 3D print that at home. Now, how many people realistically have a 3D printer at home? Now, in 5 years' time, it might be like microwaves. Microwaves, everyone's got one, but I think it's really unlikely. It's another hobby, running one of those.
Do you not think it all depends on how easy it becomes to use?
I still think it is down to the available files. So it's us saying, here's the drop tank file, or here's the propellers for the Skyvan, here's the STL file, off you go. Is very different to a modeler saying, okay, I want to go and design that myself. Because you need to measure it, do all the research that we've spoken about, and then you start having to think about digital rights issues. What's the top one? Us offering a few freebies for a drop tank or a propeller as a little extra add-on is fine, but if we invest in research and design time, you could sell one set of files and then someone goes and shares it online or gives a copy to all his mates, then
we're not making any money out of that.
Yeah.
Certainly from building, every time we get a new model, we have a lot of rapid prototypes and 3D prints made before we cut any steel. And I've built a lot of those models in my time. Dealing with 3D printing parts could be quite difficult, especially larger parts. So you've got to use super glue rather than polycement, which is a lot more unforgiving. The models aren't as stable long term. They can be really affected by heat and cold and UV light, things like that. So certainly for the main parts of a model, polystyrene is the better, at the moment, is the better material. Certainly add-on details and figures and diorama things. 3D printing is amazing.
There's a 40 unit scale Merdin 3D prototype. When I came back, I found it in the warehouse. I'm looking at it right now, actually. And I found it randomly in our warehouse, just sat on this little display card with some Perspex prop for the blades. And I brought it up to the office and put it on a shelf. It looks like a banana. Well, the whole thing is just warped in the different temperatures and everything else. So to answer your other question, though, of Edward's kits and those extra parts, there is a few things that we'd like to do. You might see from us this year. I don't think you'll see a full hybrid set from us or anything like that anytime, because we're not going to set up it's very unlikely we'll set up a whole print class, isn't it?
Yeah, we could just print this part off and we've got a whole new version. When you combine that with plastic that we previously released.
In some ways, it's like a hobby on its own, isn't it?
Oh, it absolutely is. Absolutely is. Brownie, you referenced the flying dray there. Not Telford last year, the year before, walking around, and there's no Mark 9s around. And then people asking on the stand, where can I get a Mark 9? Sorry, they're gone. We've sold out. We're on to the Mark 8 now. And there was clearly demand there for Mark 9 to get fires 24 scale. So it came back to the office, and I spoke to some large retailers that were there, but I spoke to them beforehand, and they said, more of these, please. I was like, okay, fair enough. Yeah, the easy thing to do would have just been to rerun the original Mark 9 release, and the guys would have thanked me for that. But we're on to the test and learn. We wanted to do something a bit different, and I've talked to Edward for the last 4.5 years and being back and doing some collaborations and bits and pieces. And that was just like, hang on a minute, didn't they strap beer barrels to the bottom of the Mark 9? And the Corgi guys here had done it in 70 scale. And it was like, oh, how easy would that be? How many extra parts do we get? They're not 3D printed, they're resin cast actually. But how many extra bits do we need in order to truly replicate a flying dray? And it's not that much actually. And there you go. There's quite a special release. We threw a pint glass in there as well. Every kit gets free pint glass. That's a nice touch. If you wanted a Mark 9 but don't care for the resin parts, don't worry about them. Just put them on the side and paint them up separately. So we test and learn. We learned a lot from that. We do want to do more. So yeah,
I think we'll be able to. It's so easy. It's what's in the process, isn't it?
Well, thanks to Edward and they're, just saying, could you design this, please? And we taught them a few things as well with that research pack. You remember, they come back and questioned a load of it, and we went, no, look at that. And they went, oh, we didn't know that. So yeah, it was good. I met with Edward team last week in Germany when we sat down and we spoke about a couple of projects and bits and pieces. So yeah, it's exciting opportunities to do something a little bit different.
So there's a potential to expand the range of accessories that you're bringing out with the range of masks that you announced for this year, with something like that as well then potentially.
Yeah, I mean, we said that when we released that spent deckle sheet we did the lifeboat starter set with all the other names on, which we've now on to version 2, by the way. So if a lifeboat station EU has recently received a Shannon class lifeboat, the chances are the name and everything for it is already on the new version of the deckle sheet. That was just a test and learn. And could we go off and start doing deckle sheets and bits and pieces? The answer really is yes, we can, if we carefully select the subject matter. The masking sets last took us quite a while. We never intended the gap between releasing the Lysander kit and then eventually releasing the masking set to be so big. We were learning a lot. Our supplier, Cartoglass there, they'd never done it before. They were learning a lot as well. So before you know it, it's the best part of 7 months. But we released it. And we surprised ourselves with how many we've sold, given how long ago the kit was originally released. And so that was good. The 109s really well. We sold out as lows again. So yeah, obviously soon in the range this year that I can't remember how many, 14 or something like that, 14 or 16 masking sets we put into the range. all of them are paired with a new release. The T2, T4 Jaguar masking set is in there, but there's other sets that relate to aircraft, product in the range, been in the range for many years. And I think that shows you that there is demand there for it. So we've definitely
I think you've got the pricing right as well with them. I think because some of the other companies, the main one I would say, I think they're getting a bit carried away with some of the masking set prices. I think they are getting a bit crazy, but I thought yours are pretty good.
We wanted to do. So a couple of years ago, we stopped sending test shots out to any aftermarket company, despite how friendly we are with them or not. And it was just getting a bit unmanageable, completely out of control. So we just said, right, the fairest way of dealing with this is to say, no, we're not sending anything out to anyone. We are little grumbles, but a lot of people eventually understand that actually they're being treated fairly by us saying no. By doing that, of course, we're releasing these amazingly new tool kits with clear parts or marking as 109 in a 109's case that desperately need masking. They don't come along for a little while after. Then basically inadvertently created an opportunity for ourselves to own that, which is also why we chose to go with Kotare, not only because they're bloody good quality and we've worked with them for a very long time and anything that they get is very good, but they're not a player in the masking set world already where we would then potentially run the risk of them releasing their own version because we've had to share stuff with them. So yeah, we spoke to enough people about it all, but we just felt that we had to go it alone with it. So yeah, quite interesting how that's already evolved for us. It's quite nice.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. It's really appreciated. We've been looking forward to having you guys on for some time, but hopefully we'll get the opportunity to have another conversation in the future. And please don't be strangers.
Anytime. Thank you very much, guys.
Very much.
Yeah, great to chat.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
Do you want cutting-edge detail for your kits? Then take a look at Phase Hanger Resin Accessories, run by USAF veteran Mike Reeves. With real-world aircraft experience as a crew chief, Mike knows exactly where accuracy counts. And today, he's bringing that knowledge to life with precision 3D printed parts. From seamless intakes and nozzles to dropped flaps, pods, pylons, and cockpit upgrades, Phase Hanger's prints capture the crisp edges and fine detail that limitations in injection molding just can't reproduce. From 1/72nd to 1/32nd scale, you'll find add-ons from Cold War classics to the latest frontline jets with frequent new additions to the product range. Every piece is designed by modelers, for modelers, and faithfully reproduced on state-of-the-art printers and shipped worldwide, and are ready to drop straight into your next build. With additions to the product line landing all the time, there's always something fresh to elevate your next build. Explore the full range at phasehangerresin.com and follow Phase Hanger on Facebook and Instagram for regular updates and inspiration. Phase Hanger Resin Accessories, authentic detail designed with a veteran's eye and available to modelers everywhere. Phase Hanger is a proud sponsor of the Beyond the Box Art podcast.
All right, Benchmates, that brings us to the end of yet another episode of Beyond the Box Art. A huge thank you to our guests, Luke Carswell, plus Dale Luckhurst, Matt Whiting and Clint Mitchell from Airfix for joining us and sharing their stories, insight and passion for the hobby. And of course, a massive thank you to our incredible sponsors. And finally, a massive shout out to all of you for listening, supporting the show and helping to build the incredible community that sits behind it. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. Leave us a review if you can, and come and join the conversation with the Benchmates online, because this show has always been about more than just plastic. It's about the people behind the builds. Until next time, keep building, keep learning, and most importantly, keep enjoying the hobby. Right then, from all of us here, it's time to say goodbye. So from Nevs.
Bye everyone, see you in the next episode.
Dan.
See you, Benchmates.
Boulders.
Cheerio all.
Luke.
Au revoir.
Oh, that's different. Martin.
Take care, everyone. That was fun.
Mark.
See you, everybody. Big up.
Wongy.
Ta-ra, everyone, and remember, 60 parts or less.
And for myself, thanks for listening, and we'll see you again in a fortnight. Bye-bye.
And now, the outtakes. Because sometimes the best moments happen just after someone says, "Don't worry, we'll edit that out."
It's probably better being a little bit colder because some people in the hobby don't like to, and Martin's laughing because he knows where I'm going. I know don't like to use deodorant. So if the heating was on, I guarantee there would have been some smells, to say the least.
Oh, that's going in the outtakes at the end.
Fusion Bruce Lee. I mean, I could even probably get it up so that you can see the madness behind it. That's a bad phrase if you don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, don't do that on screen, Luke, please.
Yeah, that's a bad one. Let's cut that one. Cut that one.
While you're actually putting the image on screen,
getting it up.
I'm getting it up. Yeah.
Oh, this is so going against the show.
No, please don't.
My cock-ups are on the latest episode, so it's somebody else's turn.
Your cock-ups.